Oh, it was, yeah, no, this was very, very dense fog. There were cars, I was told, coming back from Lake Cowichan that just pulled over.
Is that right?
They just stopped because they
You live on the wet coast, and you can expect that.
Yeah, you really be careful.
Pretty good turnout, generally.
Oh, yeah. There's a few council meetings that we get.
Yeah.
This many, but this is
Right, well, thank you everyone for coming. This will get started. Appreciate all the interest we have in what's going on in the school, so it's just great to see everyone. And with that, we'll get on with approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Mayor Little. All in favor? Right, so the Metchosin School came alive, first of all, in 1914, and the original building is part of the Metchosin Arts and Cultural Centre. From there, it evolved over the years and in bits and pieces as an elementary school. When enrollment declined and young kids were sent elsewhere, the school district tried a technical school for a while, but then came to the decision to sell the school. At the time, the community put a lot of pressure on the council of the day to buy it, and with some financial juggling, they managed to do just that. Suddenly, however, there was the council and staff faced with the question of what exactly to do with an aging and pretty rundown empty building. Meanwhile, the MACA group continued as a volunteer nonprofit organization creating a welcoming facility for artists and the public alike. First of all, a management company was engaged to lease the spaces, but really was unsuccessful. No one was that interested in coming to Metchosin to book those rooms. And after that, plans and discussions around promising ideas were considered. It looked like it could become a regional training center for first responders for a while, and with a coordination maybe with the Justice Institute. Another prospect was Brooks School, and then it was the Victoria College of Art. Nothing, however, seemed to really get off the ground, and then COVID hit, and that certainly had things coming to a dead stop. And that's kind of when Instinct Training got involved. Instinct had been running programs for first responders such as firefighters, police, Coast Guard, as well as clinics in first aid and firearm safety and CPR and so on through Camosun College. But they were really left high and dry when Camosun shut down all those programs during COVID. So Instinct obviously couldn't run the program at the school either during COVID, but in lieu of rent, got to work and renovated the classrooms, which had things like asbestos flooring and kid-sized cubby holes and various other issues. They were in pretty rough shape. So eventually COVID faded, Instinct started classes, and Mile Zero Brewery came to life. And thanks to the grant writing ability of Chief Dunlop, the district was awarded a grant of nearly $1 million to refurbish the school, focusing on the gym. So the time council discussed priorities for the future use of the gym, but unfortunately didn't really make a resolution to that fact. So the records are really not there. Mayor Little and I were both on council at the time, and the priorities set then were 1, a community event space, 2, recreation, 3, first responder training and community emergency center, and 4, commercial. A small ad hoc working group was formed to administer the grant, but ran into a bit of a rocky road trying to get things done. The spectacular refinished floor and the centerpiece whale painted by Art Brendan has been a real highlight. But council changed, staff changed, and unplanned challenges arose. One of the biggest challenges was that to have a couple of hundred people at an event, the code requires a certain number of washrooms, which we didn't really think of at the time. Instead of just a fairly simple kitchen reno, the schools required some major construction to create 6 washrooms, including an accessible washroom. It took 3 RFPs to finally enlist a company to do the job, which is moving to get things finished by the grant deadline of the end of this year. It's taken a lot longer than expected, but having a beautiful refurbished facility is a wonderful opportunity for Metchosin. is also uncharted territory on many levels. So today, we're here to move forward with planning for the future. Mayor Little connected a while back with the Hildebrands to talk about facilitation of what we're doing and orchestrated having them join us today. So with that, we'll move on to public participation. I know people probably have quite a bit to say, and I also should have said earlier that we really appreciate being able to share this land with our First Nations neighbors. So when you come to the mic, as you can see there, please state your name and address and try to limit your conversation to about 4 minutes. So, carry on.
Sorry. Good day. My name's Ernie Chang. I live at 3957 Olympic View Drive, and I've been here for about 23 years in Metchosin. Although my wife, Betty Ann Snyder, you'd know much better because she's a social partner in our family. I've been a physician. I was one of the owners of Mill Street Medical, so I've been a family doctor. I'm now totally retired. And I've also been a computer scientist, but that's all in the past. Looking forward, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to share a vision with you, one that I think encompasses some of the natural beauty and wonders of Metchosin in a rural environment that we all love, and that is to have a permanent natural history club facility. Now, the Nature House is closed, and I don't know the reasons why, but I know that there's a tremendous amount of interest in the groups that have been going to mushroom hunting, the people who go bird banding, the people who are interested in medicinal stuff, the people interested in the seashore, and all of that. And I'm thinking of a place where people can just drop in, but it would be a permanent place because it would be a place where I could donate a microscope, I could donate some computers, I could donate some multimedia so people could learn, people could record where the most interesting fungi or slime molds or bird sightings are, and it'd be a place where people could drop in and just talk with each other. I've been out to the bird banding people, and they're interested, but they don't have a place to go. I have a whole bunch of bird art that I'd like to contribute and other things, and I don't see this as a money-making thing. I see this as a community effort to actually tap into some of the deep fondness and closeness that we have with nature. So I'll just offer to help organize this. In my life, I've been successful and not successful in organizing, but I know that something has to start, and so I'm willing to at least give it a go if this has any traction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We already have an interesting concept that we haven't thought of.
You're a photographer too, right?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Betty Hildebrand, 859 Norton Road. Not knowing exactly what to expect based on the format of today's meeting, I've come here with great hopes for what will come next. What I don't know is this a special 4-hour Thursday afternoon council meeting, a facilitated workshop, a professional presentation, a discussion? I'm not clear. But I do know that the timing is perfect. These decisions couldn't have happened much sooner for various reasons, and they shouldn't happen much later. The timing for strategy is perfect. This space needs to be public, and it can be shared. We are only 5,000 people. We have come up with solid plans for our community spaces in the past, and we can do it again to this space in the heart of our community center. The gym, the commercial sites, the training services, the arts center, the playing fields, a village gathering space, even parking. It can be shared. Many people I've talked with assume that the management of the old school has already been taken care of. Well, it hasn't been yet, but it will be now. It's strategy time. We're the fools if we don't get this right. So we'll step up, pay attention, listen to each other, talk to your neighbors, hear what's been done elsewhere, but make this our own. Let our district officials know your thoughts. If not today, at today's meeting within this format or within this time frame, then find another way. And council, fix the ledger. Move our 4-acre property and facility from the liability column to the asset column. This is a community asset. Managed properly, it can now pay for itself. Oh, I'm hopeful, but hope implies struggle to meet a goal, and I think we're ready. So thank you all for helping us.
Thank you.
Sorry, I lost it.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Morgan Yates, and I'm a Metchosin resident with a home on Gemini Drive. Chair Epp, members of council, thank you for holding a committee meeting focused on a visioning workshop for the Metchosin school site. It's really timely to review the community vision for the old school site. It's also timely to reflect with genuine appreciation on the effort and the vision of those who helped to facilitate the purchase of the site from School District 62 and those involved in the subsequent and substantial renovations to the school building, including the gym. So thank you to all involved. My own vision for the old school site is really guided by section 7.1 and 7.3 of our official community plan, and the context for the old school site within the village center planning area. I believe that priority use of the old school site should be oriented to providing or supporting social, recreational, cultural, and educational opportunities primarily for local residents. In my view, the visioning process for the site should be informed by pertinent sections of our OCP and also by the relative size and scale of the site's key features. And to me, those are its built infrastructure, its parking areas, and its outdoor areas. I believe that facilitation of a visioning process should reflect the underlying planning considerations and a spectrum of priority community and social purposes rather than any single social purpose. Likewise, I recommend that coordination of indoor and outdoor facility rentals for the site be undertaken by a designated, impartial, and budgeted district staff role rather than by any local group representing any specific social purpose. It's worth noting that the 4.7 acre property includes a combination of built infrastructure, which takes up about 15% of the site, parking and other paved areas, which take up about 22% of the site, and then outdoor playing fields and tennis courts, which make up the remaining 63% of the site. So to me, visioning for the site should take into account each of those primary elements. Ideally, the site could evolve to operate on a break-even financial basis with priority given to local, not-for-profit uses in social, recreational, cultural, and educational realms. To provide a specific example, I am hopeful that future classroom space can be found within the site to host the Metchosin preschool. In my view, hosting the preschool within one or two of the larger classrooms would provide a substantial social benefit to our community and really aid us in retaining younger families as part of Metchosin's demographic mix. Similarly, I am hopeful that the newly renovated gymnasium can soon become available for use by local sport and recreation groups. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Voigt, and I am also a Metchosin resident. I live on Gemini Drive. Mayor Little, councillors, and interim CEO Tarnowski, thank you so much for this meeting. To envision the optimum longer-term use of the old school property, I respectfully propose that we begin by asking some fundamental questions. What were the key aspirations and objectives that underpinned the District of Metchosin's decision to purchase this property? For example, was it support for community well-being? Was it revenue generation and return on investment from a commercial enterprise? Or maybe something else? Ultimately, who are the longer-term intended user groups for different elements of the property? For example, the classrooms, the gym, the fields, the parking areas. Should longer-term use reinforce existing relationships with MACA, with ArtPod, with the Seniors Resource Center? Should sport and recreation be added now that we have a renovated gym? Should educational opportunities be added now that we have classrooms? What about allocating space for the Metchosin preschool and or continuing adult education for the entire Metchosin community? Decisions to sign leases with the current commercial tenants may have been the best solution at the time, considering we were in a pandemic and considering that the building needed extensive renovations. Are the current commercial tenants the most desirable or the most appropriate for medium and longer term tenants for our facility? What are the current incomes and expenses for this property based upon the arrangement with our current commercial tenants? What would be the financial penalties for ending commercial leases early for these tenants? Might it make sense to terminate leases early and pay the penalties so that Metchosin taxpayers can use more of the facility sooner? Once renovations have been completed through the grants that conclude at the end of 2023, what is the projected or estimated steady-state gross cost to operate and maintain this property? What does it cost for insurance, utilities, maintenance, repairs, custodial duties, groundskeeping? Is the projected income from the commercial and or community rentals able to fully offset the cost of operation and maintenance? What revenue stream could we reasonably expect from renting the facility to community members for community recreation, for sport, for education, socialization, arts, culture? Who will manage the day-to-day operations of this property? Preferably, this will be an impartial District of Metchosin employee rather than a third party who might represent narrow or special interests. Has the district considered factors such as an online booking system, a booking agent available by telephone, a custodian, a monitor to check and maintain appropriate use and cleanliness before and after renters? A district employee will also be needed to sign contracts, accept payments, process refunds. Perhaps all of these tasks could be covered under one job description with the work shared by 2 or 3 part-time employees. Once these fundamentals have been decided, then operational details, such as these cited below, will need to be addressed. Number 1, contract process. What will be the process for users to book the space or space in the facility, to sign contracts, and to pay for rentals? Will the process be inline or on person? Access date. Now that the gym, classrooms, and washrooms have been renovated, when will community members be able to book the gym? Will we be able to use the gym as of January 1st, 2024, as has been previously suggested? Building access. How will users access the building? Will facilities be left unlocked for users during their book time? Will keys be distributed and returned? Will there be a lockbox with a code access? Will there be a keypad coded entry? And will users be expected to lock and secure the facility after their rental? Number 4, damage deposit policy. Will this only be applicable to commercial and special event renters with a high number of participants where damage is more likely? I can tell you from experience that administering the payment and refund of damage deposits for weekly and ongoing rentals for small community groups is more labor intensive than it's worth. 5, on-site storage. Will storage be provided for weekly renters of the gym? Number 6, access to equipment. Will the district be supplying basic sports equipment, or will users be expected to bring all of their own? Number 7, waiver of rental fees for community groups providing public benefit. Will renter fees be waived for groups providing free instruction to community members or for non-for-profit societies? In closing, although the District of Metchosin has owned the old school property for 6 years, it has not been broadly available for use by local residents and taxpayers. Accordingly, I urge Council to create a short-term strategy to allow community members to use the now renovated facility beginning January 1, while you develop a comprehensive strategy. The selection of an operation management model for the school facility should align with the district goals and community expectations. Successful management of the facility, and eventually a management model for the entire grounds of this property, not just the buildings, will benefit from community support and a clearly articulated vision for all aspects of community socialization, including recreation, sport, education, art, and culture. Lastly, as noted above as an integral part of asset management planning, I urge the District of Metchosin to employ objective and impartial district staff for the booking management of all aspects of the old school facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Anthony, Metchosin Road. I think it was about a year or two ago, me and Eric visited the Cowichan Community Workshop, and I don't know, I just thought it was a really inspirational sort of place. So it's like a co-op model, but it's a workshop with like all the gadgets and everything that's been funded locally, and people can come in and make things, and there's classes. So it's actually, I think, called out like a maker's workspace, and I just really like the whole concept of that community-wise. You know, everything's so expensive right now, and I think having these places where people can go and, you know, people could donate equipment, people, you know, maybe they can be funded to buy equipment, people can learn new skills at a cheaper rate. We have a lot of people in this community who have great skills that they can share. It helps a lot, you know, sometimes even for income for people to be able to make things that they can sell. And I want to add like the kitchen to that too. You know, if we're having a VIHA certified kitchen, that could also be used in a similar sort of way where they can be classes, can allow people to come in and make their things that they may not be able to make at home that they can sell and provide income for themselves in just an extra little way. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I do believe there's funding available for things like that, which is really cool from the provincial government and other associations. So yeah, that's my big dream. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Diana Smith. I'm coordinator and representative of Metchosin Art Pod, a tenant in the Maca part of the building. This doesn't include a lot of the rationale because I don't have time. So comments and vision. Number 1, who does the site serve? Who are the priority users? The vision is that the users are defined, first of all, and that gives priority to Metchosin residents and community groups, including Chiano First Nation. A second priority should be for public use beyond Metchosin. Number 2, how is site managed? Definitely not outsourced. Prefer an in-house community group combo. Have a paid staff person hired by the district whose salary is included in overall budget, plus a volunteer board of Metchosin residents, group, and business representatives. 3, what usage is desired? Vision, the entire village core, community hall to community house, is a thriving, community-centered place offering a diversity of useful venues and services that attract Metchosinites Chiano members, and other Metchosin and others. Metchosin is seen as a destination which has benefit to both locals and visitors. 4, think outside the box. First, so think about the site considering the whole village core. Vision, install a 3-way stop sign at the intersection, install a crosswalk from one side of Happy Valley to the other. Vision, create a community association like a business association but broader to coordinate and enhance desired usage of village core in line with overall vision representing all interested sectors. B, think beyond the physical building, consider the grounds. Create an attractive, person-centered foyer, so it's not like that in front of the building. Yes, parking may be an issue, but we should be encouraging a less car-centered world and environment. Enhance public transportation, dedicated parking for buses, electric vehicles, as well as parking for those with disabilities, and reduce general parking space in front of the building. Mile Zero patio and the mural by the main entrances are moves in the right direction. The space would allow outdoor events like the Parisian Cafe and art and craft markets. Enhance musical offerings with stage area and sound system. Consider car-free events. For such events that include the whole village core once or twice a year. Vision, create a community park and natural history, including that, and garden space that includes public art. Vision, install a public art in front of the building. Vision, create and maintain attractive and user-friendly grounds and perimeter. For example, install an art-enhanced fence on the east edge between us and Bickerdykes. Change the west side entrance from a prison-like compound for derelict equipment to an enticing and accessible entrance to the gym as per Betty Hilder's suggestion. Create a name for the whole site that is short, user-friendly, and descriptive that inspires and excites potential users. Have a contest and public vote to find a name and award a prize. C, think beyond current and regular uses. Vision, yes, continue to offer subsidized rent for those groups and individuals whose mandate supports the overall well-being of the community, particularly arts, culture, and recreation, but also expand offerings such as dance, music, theatrical events, spoken word, and book festivals, etc. Overall, integrate and coordinate uses and events at the school site into the entire village core vision so that all places, public and commercial, support and enhance each other. Be sustainable and healthy in all ways, environmentally, creatively, socially, as well as financially. Think globally, welcoming and inviting, and act locally at the newly named Community Hub. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Judy Roper, 661 Pears Road. I can't stay here for the whole session, so I would like to now speak highly of considering a discussion about including the Metchosin Preschool Co-op into this space. It's been really nice that a couple people have mentioned that already. I'm not sure how aware everyone here is about the situation that the Metchosin Preschool Co-op is in. Currently, we are running out of Westmont. They have been very generous and have allowed us to rent a space there for this year and hopefully next year. And so what happened is we've been running for about 60 years out of our preschool building right by this community hub. And unfortunately, the building has been deemed unsafe. And so we had to remove them from there and put them in a safe spot. We've been working with the Anglican Church of Canada for 2.5 years to hopefully put a new preschool building onto that spot. We were very hopeful at the beginning of those discussions, and at one point we even had an offer to lease, and a lease that we were looking at. You know, but as everyone knows, the economy's changing and things just change overall, and that lease never got signed by the Anglican Church of Canada. And so it is not looking very good for the preschool right now. We are still in negotiations, but at this point I'm not very hopeful. So we have enough money to rent out Westmont for one more year, and then we don't really have a plan or a location to go. And so our big hope right now is being able to go into this community space. And so I'm just asking again that somewhere in this discussion, I'm not sure what the format is, but there is, a focus on how we can put our beloved preschool that's been part of this community for so many years. We've even had 3 generations of people who've gone into this preschool, that we hopefully can continue on with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Norm Hardy, 4283 Happy Valley Road. And I'm speaking on behalf of myself and some of my neighbors. The Metchosin school property is the heart of the village. It's in the middle of the quote-unquote action. People arrive in the center to buy groceries, get coffee, pick up pizza, etc. By virtue of its physical placement, its presence essentially defines the core. Right now, the land surrounding the school is dominated by automobile parking. We're a rural community, so we recognize that everyone needs a car to get around. We also recognize the need for sufficient parking for tenants as well as visitors. Cars should not be the defining feature of the village core. In essence, we have potentially ample parking along the roadsides on both Metchosin and Happy Valley Road. So the district should give consideration to the value of setting aside part of the school property for pedestrian usage and a place for people to gather, and a place not just dedicated to cars. In essentially any community center, public spaces for people to gather is absolutely essential. It's where things happen, where people get together, where silos break down, and where people who wouldn't normally meet have a chance to discuss issues or just to meet generally. It's where ideas are oftentimes thrown around and projects begin. And serendipitously may lead to a conversation that you may never have had otherwise. Public spaces provide this opportunity, and by incorporating and prioritizing public gathering areas into the plans for the school property, it not only improves the aesthetics of the space around the school, but it will contribute to the success of the Community Arts Center and strengthen the connections among the people who live in the community. And not only that, but it may also strengthen the connections at the core of the psychology of the community, if you will. And that's what we have to say, and thank you very much for the opportunity to say it.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else for public participation?
Good afternoon. Art Brendan, Chapel Heights Drive. I'm nervous, I forgot where I live. I don't want to cover in my opinion and my thoughts on what other people have already said, because they've covered it very well and given a lot of ideas and a lot of thought to this. My thoughts are more general, and I'm thinking that for myself, there are 2 distinct issues to be considered in developing a strategic plan for the former school site. The approaches are distinct but not separate. And my first consideration is the management plan, which people have covered in more detail than I've written down or even thought about. And that is, of course, the public use and the fiscal management of the property and the physical site and oversight of the entire facility, kind of the holistic approach. The fields, the commercial contracts, the gym, the arts center, etc. And I think that, to me, is distinctly unique to the second part, which for me is a public arts policy to cover the arts part, which is already a contract in the old section, MACA. And an arts policy for Metchosin, I think, would be very appropriate to consider at the same time, in conjunction with the property being managed efficiently and effectively, and as other people have already outlined in more detail than I have here. So the arts policy is what I've kind of concentrated on, and that is a public arts policy, Victoria City has one, Saanich has one. These are online, and they're in great detail. They define culture in the arts. And I think that, for me, a definition, and other people have asked already about, the 5 W's of what, who, what, where, when, and why. Defining an art policy for Metchosin, I think, is essential in making the rest of it fulfilling. It gives it context to MACA, for example, and there's also an umbrella for public sculpture, public involvement, and the arts and culture are defined as literary arts, performing arts, and visual art, per se, and that's the defining culture. I'm using the CRD outline for that, and I think that in the context of Metchosin being subscribing to and supporting the CRD arts policy and culture, arts and culture, that would be appropriate. So, just about finished. So I just wanted to reference that. And in conclusion, I think I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak in public and express my thoughts today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Well,
Jennifer Burgess, 3837 Duke Road, Metchosin resident. I came to a workshop. I find I'm in a council meeting. I do hope there's a chance here to break out into small tables and speak. This is a very unusual presentation, I think. Sorry. I guess I don't see another senior board member here at the table or in the audience, so I'm going to speak from that perspective. We have a pretty good chunk of the schoolhouse, if you're not aware of that. I think we were the second group that moved into the schoolhouse before it was actually purchased. It was leased from the school district. And I think what I need to really mention is that all of the improvements and upkeep to date in the schoolhouse have come about through volunteer work, grant applications, improvements that were made with communities in mind. There are a few I would like to suggest that are still needed, especially for seniors. The building has a lot of issues around accessibility. And we, as a senior center, have an accessible entrance in one part of the schoolhouse, but there's a really large, lovely eating, and a meeting area upstairs, which has no access, and it's a very large square footage. And it would be really great to consider what that square footage could be and be accessible so that our seniors could also utilize part of it. I agree with the concepts that people have too, that it will be a much stronger community center, I believe, when the massive grant that was given, provincial grant, I believe, or provincial federal?
both. Yeah.
Both. The improved gymnasium, improved washrooms, the newly renovated massive kitchen. I think all of these will really strengthen the concept of a community center. And I think we're moving towards that idea of it because we have sort of wonderful separate pieces of arts, seniors, instinct, and all of its amazing courses that it teaches. And now we'll have a gymnasium that we can open up, perhaps beyond the community, because the other issue that we have in this community is the incredible amount of population that has arrived on our doorstep. Langford's building, fastest growing in BC. Colwood, the gravel pit, as I still call it, will soon have 10,000 individuals in it. These will be incredible pressures on what we want to have as a community center in a rural area. So I think we really need to, as a community, decide what it is we envision for the middle of our village. And the big studies of our village are things that you certainly should look at. There have been several major studies. One's called the Village Square Study, I think it was called initially, done by the Healthy Communities. Now we talk about it as the village center. There are some bylaws underway, sort of securing and cementing the actual bylaw issues of how things are zoned around this area to make it quite a tight center. So I just like to bring that all up, but from the perspective of a senior in Metchosin, and the fact that in Metchosin we have 26% of our population over 65, which is a rather strong number. I guess I'm here to say, don't forget about what seniors require from a community center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacob. I'm 4271 Metchosin Road. I have an interesting perspective in the community here and this school in particular. I've worked for Public Works and I have crawled through every square inch of that building, and I've done a lot of work on the taxpayers' dime and know how much has gone into that building. I also work at the fire hall. I go to everyone's worst day in Metchosin, usually approximately 400 times a year. And essentially, my job is building maintenance is my job, which is not what I do. I'm pointing that out because of services that a lot of us do in Metchosin, and the support that I would be looking for from that perspective. I can also say that I appreciate the arts of Metchosin. Me and a group of friends did a music fest in Port Renfrew, Tall Tree and Song and Surf. Look it up, it was pretty big, it was good. And talk about supporting local arts, culture, music heavy for sure. But I have experience with that and what guys need to do that, right? So I have to say what our MACA has there is awesome. Their price per square footage and how much square footage they have is something to be proud of and something that not a lot of people have. The opportunity for the rest of that building for us to still be together, to create income, to support our services is a massive opportunity. And I just think that needs to be, we can work together. So from the fire side, we rely on youth to come in. As it was mentioned, we have a very senior citizen population here. We reach into other communities to bring people, and we get that because we have a wicked training program. We're actually having a problem with people getting hired all the time because of the training we support. And a regional training center is bringing people to our fire hall, which is essentially supporting me. There's a lot of pressure on Chief and I, and my family. So I would like to say, like, this needs to work together. And we're in the classic, are we rural or are we Oak Bay? Are we gonna have jobs or any kind of income, or are we just gonna bleed everybody, right? Like, I think the opportunity for income is huge. I think the opportunity for us to work together is easy. And I think it can happen. Again, I do see sides of all stories. Even I have to mention even the preschool. I was on the board. My kids went through it. We went through 4 years. I do have to say the shared bathrooms is an issue. I don't think we could get a preschool. We went through it. I tried. We went down that road. I don't think that is a viable option. But I think we can work together. I think it can support everything. I think what MACA has there can be better. And the gym is going to be shared. there's a bit of everyone's putting pressure on it. It's going to be shared, it's going to be managed. We won't be the first community to manage a gym for the public. It's a thing. There's lots of direction to follow there. That's about it. Oh, the park. The daycare's got a wicked park. I walk to the park with my kids all the time. It's not that busy. So I don't know if a park a block up is going to be any busier than that park. Yeah, park is going to be an issue. But yeah, there's lots to do. I think it can be beneficial to all, and I think all sides can be managed a bit better. And I think that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay, last.
Eric White, 4290 Metchosin Road. Just someone mentioned about the front, kind of, it is the centerpiece of it all, and it does kind of look like a parking lot. If it could be visually enhanced, that would, I think, would be super cool. And I know we don't really want to throw more money at it, but the space between what is now Mile Zero and the other building, if that had an enclosure over it, I think it would make the space, not the parking lot, broken up. It would look less like a parking lot. As well, it would give a much needed, useful outdoor space in our Metchosin weather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Vanderwater, 4569 William Head Road. I've been involved with the school for a number of years. Actually went there in the 50s. I'm the president of the Metchosin Arts and Cultural Center Association for, I don't know, it just happened that way. I guess you could say I'm in the pool with a bunch of eccentrics. And it's great. It's the best. So we've been taking care of the school for a number of years now, and we're all pretty proud of all our studios, although it's always a changing dynamic. And we've got a great hallway exhibition on now. The one speaker who said it wasn't open to the public was a little wrong, because it's been open to the public the whole time, and we put on lots of events, and we have a do-it-yourself room there that has a lot of events as well where the public can participate. And personally, I would like to see a lot more public participation, because getting the public out is pretty tough these days. And so we're all excited about the gym getting finished. Thanks for finally getting to spend that $1 million. And we're in a hurry to spend it now, because the deadline's the end of the year. So what are we going to do with the gym? Well, we need somebody to look after it. I suggested in the interim that Josh from our music studio could take care of a bunch of the things that need to be done with the gym. Of course, we should have had a booking system set up for it a long time ago, so that should be done ASAP, so that people, the public, can actually book it. And the compound needs to be cleaned out. Maybe the end of the gym should be painted bright colors to attract public attention to it. It's a great facility. It's going to be really good for the community. And the one speaker was speaking about the car problem. Yes, we need boulevards along Happy Valley Road. And we took a run at having a public space a couple of times, but it went nowhere. Wouldn't take a lot of parking spaces. It's a great idea to bring the public in, is to have a space where the public can gather outside and eat their pizzas, whatever. And I think one speaker advocated an art policy. That's a great idea to have an art policy. I think that we should have had it. It would be great for Metchosin that we bring together all sorts of installations that we could offer. And so, what else we got? Yeah, the lift for the stairway, we took a run at that 2 or 3 times too. It needs to go somewhere now, especially with Jennifer Burgess setting her concerns. And the last speaker, yeah, we all got to work together on this. And a successful conclusion to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll be really quick. Deborah Pyle, 4912 William Head Road. And there's obviously great ideas about the actual buildings, but my main concern is the open green space. And I would like to reiterate what I've sent to council already, that the green space is precious and it should be left alone and it should be undeveloped and it shouldn't cost us anything except mowing. And that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so the plan for the rest of the meeting is we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll introduce you to Carmen and Jock Hildebrand, who are going to be helping us try to get ourselves organized as far as the school goes. After the presentation, we'll have an opportunity again for some public input. So hopefully you'll all listen to what is going on around the table here, and then maybe have some more comments to add after that. Okay, so we're just going to recess for 5 minutes.
There's a licensing issue. And so we run a school under the co-op model. So we're very close. So co-op model is a and keep the prices it's only for a few hours a day because they run, well, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they run for 4 hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays, they run from 9 to 11. It's not a daycare. We have a lot of people continue because, like I said, we've been running for over 60 years in the community, and they offered to put in money for people, but the issue with that is we're not on our own property. And they don't really want us to and so we can still raise money to put in the back unless there's something I don't understand about plumbing. I mean, we can put in the back. I feel like if you have the money, can you?
And I think that you have to, like Sarah said,
I don't know. It's not easy. I don't know.
Like on my soul, so valuable.
Yeah, I think
the two buildings together and like break up the close to the parking lot goes into the building, right? And then like yeah, you
we need to have traditions. We need to have this is a new development because we were anticipating up until we're going to and we had a meeting a couple months ago. And now things have changed on their end. They just don't want to build a building on it. I think it's too much of their like
Well, the original plan, like if you look at that building, the back part is built with
Well, thanks for the break.
Okay, so welcome to Carmen and Jock Hildebrand, and I'll leave it to them to take it away.
Thank you very much. Can you, everybody hear me, or should I go up to the mic? Good. Thank you.
It's going to be recorded stream, so people can hear.
Okay. Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. Mayor, Council. Thank you for inviting us here to try to help with this project. It's much appreciated. Folks in the audience who obviously have great concerns about what's happening in the heart of their community. I hope that we can help you find some resolutions through the process that we put. My name is Jock Hildebrand. Jock Hildebrand Arts Portal Incorporated is my service. My wife Carmen and I often work on similar type projects. Just to give a bit of history on myself, I have actually been an artist for the past, 50 years. So I've had a long whack at it. As I've moved through the arts world as an artist, an international artist, I have found along my way that a lot of strategy and art policies need to be put in place for various communities. I think I'm uniquely qualified for doing this right now for a couple of reasons. First of all, I have developed arts policies over the course of my lifetime for many different organizations, but as well, my sympathies lie not only with the arts, but I was fire chief on Denman Island for a number of years, as well as starting the ambulance service there, which I ran as unit chief, all volunteer work, as so many people do in small communities like this. So I do think it kind of uniquely positions me to help out with all the stakeholders who are here, and I think it's the stakeholders that we are concerned with. The nature of this is going to be a little different, I think. You will find that this is not actually going to be a workshop. We're hoping that can come in a future visioning session. I'd like to introduce my wife, Carmen, and she will tell you her abilities.
Hi everyone, I'm Carmen Hildebrand, and as Jock mentioned, we often do work together on projects. I also do independent consulting, and I work with primarily not-for-profit organizations in both the arts and social services sectors, and I primarily support them with strategic planning and program development. And I also teach circle dialogue processes at junior high and high schools. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of what has brought me here today. And yes, Jock and I often work on projects together. He tends to be the big picture person, and I'm the dot the I's and cross the T's person. So, which makes us a good team. Anyway, so Jock is going to be the primary facilitator for the rest of this. And then a couple of people did mention there was a little bit of confusion about the format. So we've heard from you initially. Now we're hoping to have that inform a little bit of a discussion with council, and then we're hoping to get feedback from you again at the end based on sort of discussion that's occurred here. So it's really more information gathering. We're not going to walk out with any details or decisions today, but we're hoping that this is the first step in moving things forward to have a coordinated plan for this amazing site. So thanks so much, and over to Jock.
Thank you, Carmen. So one of the issues that we were asked to look at initially was to address both council and stakeholders to see if there's some sort of way that this can be worked out in a happy way that brings everybody's interest to the front, and if there are difficulties that they can be resolved. So we're talking about community members, community user groups, the council. As I'm sure everybody's aware, this is a very complex issue. It grew up, and if you remember the term grew like Topsy, I think this is exactly what's happened here. It grew up, I believe, to what I've been able to look at in a fashion that, as Topsy did, just growed. So there didn't appear to be any strong policy involved in this, and I think that that's what we're looking at for. So an internal report states that prior to discussing operational options, an arts and culture strategy should be developed, and that this strategy will guide and inform discussions for the management of the facility. It seems apparent to me that this is more about management, facility management, than a coherent arts and culture strategy at this point. We would like to take this in very, very broad strokes as we go through this presentation, keeping in mind that policy details and that kind of information is not really going to be what's happening here. We're looking at the various management options that can happen with this property. So as everybody knows, it's a community multi-use space owned by District of Metchosin, which needs visioning and firm priorities for the use of the space. Council's previous priority user groups that were identified to us prior for us coming here were arts and culture, sports and recreation, fire and emergency training. As well, we have discovered there are a number of other user groups involved in this project. So what we have come to see as we looked at the documentation that was sent to us was that there is a real need for a coordinated structure to pull all of this together. The way it's working right now presents a number of different liabilities for the city, for the District of Metchosin. And so that's what we would like to coordinate. We want to talk with all of the user groups. We want to find out what your issues are. And then hopefully we can bring the two circles, that of the administration and that of the people, the user groups, to a third circle where we can identify those points that everybody is able to agree on and feel will be beneficial for their own particular uses. Arts and culture strategies should be, as a rule, arts groups decide the best way of spending locally allocated funding, as that's their areas of expertise.
John, can I just interrupt for a sec? It's for the chair. Can we ask if this is working in terms of the recording and the online, just in terms of microphones?
Is it?
Great, thanks.
Thank you. So as a general rule, different organizations have expertise in different areas, arts and culture organizations in delivering arts and culture programming. Municipalities, one of the major partners in this, are competent in a broader approach to the arts in their community, such as funding strategies through municipal grants and facilities management. We are going to change this format just slightly because we did have our public input at the beginning. Hopefully we'll have some more public input at the end. So a question, of course, is how do the various facility stakeholders view the space? We had a pretty good lot of information come in from the stakeholders who are here today. So considerations are operational. Who operates the overall school facility? And what are the management models that Carmen and I have researched and are familiar with? How do those apply here? And common goals, as I mentioned before, looking for those goals where positivity comes from each of the stakeholders that we can ascertain and put that towards building policy. So there are examples of other mixed-use community centers. Arts Pole has polled several Vancouver Island communities who have different management models for similar arts, culture, and mixed-use facilities. Salt Spring Island, for example, with a population of 11,000, and we were looking specifically for communities that had a relatively the same population and tax base. We couldn't find an awful lot of them on Vancouver Island. There's not that many communities with a population base of around 5,000. So Salt Spring, Mahan Hall, population 11,000. The property, the building is owned by the School District 64. And so the Salt Spring Arts Salt Spring Arts, SSA, a charitable not-for-profit organization, and they have a long-term lease from School District 64. Their services are arts and culture. They do have short-term hall and leases and rentals, or it's not leases, I beg your pardon, rentals. And their funding primarily comes from CRD granting agencies. Port Hardy it falls in line with you folks here. They have a population of 4,999. The faculty is owned by, facilities owned by the District of Port Hardy. The administration of that is by Port Hardy. There are no leases, they're short-term hall rentals. Their services are mixed arts, culture, and recreation. The maintenance is done by the District of Port Hardy. There's no subletting. And the funding is through Port Hardy and user groups.
Excuse me for just 1 second, Jock. Apparently, people at home are having trouble hearing you when you turn away from the mic.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let me do this a little closer then.
Yeah, could you possibly stand at the
I would do
podium?
that, yes.
You know, we could use. Okay, should I ask, do you have copies of these materials for the audience?
Yes, they were sent, yeah. Well, I hate to turn my back on you folks, but I will try and address you as best I can.
We could turn the podium, but then your back is to us.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Wait, should we turn it this way, face the audience, or?
Probably is actually a council.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can manage here. Thank you. To carry on, the city of Duncan, and it has a like population similar to here. Their population is 5,363. The facility is owned by the CVRD, the Cowichan Valley Regional District. Administration is by CVRD, and they lease to various organizations, arts and others. Their services are mixed arts, culture, and recreation. Maintenance is by CVRD, and maintenance is a big issue when it comes to that building. Our belief is it needs to have one group administering it, as opposed to a mixed administration. And the reason for that, of course, is that there's overlapping needs. There's those areas that need to be anticipated, that maintenance will have to be done. So budgets need to be put in place that anticipate some of that thing and some of those various maintenance issues. And at present, it would appear that that's not working well for the overall building. Parksville, the old schoolhouse, they have a population of 12,000. Parksville owns the facility, and the old schoolhouse society administers it. Long-term lease from the city. Their services are arts and culture. They do short-term rentals spaces with user groups. The ones that are down below this are all larger communities, such as Vancouver, Victoria, and Nanaimo, with much larger taxation bases. They basically own the buildings, and they service and maintain them and set policies and agendas for that building. So there are a bunch of different models in place that can be used and that historically have proven themselves to work, simply because they're still there. So the difficulty here is to come up with a cohesive plan that will talk about who will manage that facility. I I'm at that age where the glasses go on, and they go off, and they go on. Some of you might relate to that, I don't know. I'll just back up here a little bit. Broad funding strategies are determined by council, such as money for public art funding. Community arts organizations are best positioned to deliver local programs such as arts education, art projects, and other local deliverables. If the desired goal is to optimize the delivery of the arts and culture to the community, then each organization should follow areas of expertise and efficiency. So again, we're talking about the various models. There are five models that can be looked at in this particular area and with your particular facility. Facilities owned and operated by municipalities, facilities with long-term lease from municipalities, outsourced professional management, and I believe that this has actually happened with a schoolhouse before. And the long-term lease to arts and culture organizations, sale of facility to arts and cultural organization. Now, as I say, this has happened in other communities. All of those have worked, but they all suit very tailor-made applications. So I think that what we are looking at is to try to determine what is the best model for this particular facility. Our recommendations are that we believe there are two best options, and that would be District of Metchosin, in-house management of the facility, or long-term lease to an arts and culture organization. Now you may ask why that is, and again I would reiterate that maintenance is one of the main difficulties. Bookings for user groups and short-term rentals needs to come from one place. So that is those are two of the big considerations in terms of figuring out what to do, which model to take. So we have made recommendations, and that is that an outside facilitator meets with each stakeholder in person or in Zoom, stakeholders, I beg your pardon, that an informal circle meeting with all stakeholders for an opportunity to voice concerns, to map opportunities to be held. A report to the district should arise from that meeting. A third recommendation is that a committee be struck for oversight. This could be possibly a public art committee, but it would be reporting directly to the District of Metchosin, and would be the people who user groups would speak to. There's a reason for that is that they would be able to wrestle with all the difficult issues. They would bring it to the council here, and motions would be made and passed on council. That keeps a lot of the difficulties for council in terms of trying to work with each user group, and it brings it to a central committee, possibly a member or a staff person, and 5 or 6 members from the outside community to comprise that. So, if I may, the concept now is to get the user groups together, to try and understand what everybody is looking for, and to organize a meeting where everybody has a voice and is able to be heard, and it gets recorded. I'm going to ask Carmen to speak to the organization of circle groups a bit, if you wouldn't mind, Carmen.
Okay, yeah, so one of the things that
Councillor Gray, I think you got to turn on Ms. Hildebrand's one there.
Yeah, one of the things that we possibly envision for some next steps would be to have some circle dialogue sessions with stakeholders that may be a little more down the road, once we have a slightly clearer sense of which model council would prefer, and then we can perhaps slowly go from sort of a very macro idea of how to move forward to getting to a little bit more of the details. So I don't know if at this point, Jock, we left it a little bit organic, so I don't know if at this point we want to maybe sort of do a round with council to see, to ask some questions, maybe provide a little bit of input for the audience, and move forward that way if that works for everyone.
Yes, I think also questions from the stakeholders here would likely be appropriate too. So perhaps we can start with council. If there's any questions you may have for us in regard to the procedure that should move us forward a bit.
Well, I guess the discussion will be amongst council. We have a portion after that part of it for some more input from the public. So, however you'd like council to start on this.
Well, perhaps it would council would be more informed if we have a little bit more public input, and then have that discussion after.
Well, I guess if you feel that's the best way to move forward, I guess we can do that. Councillor Gray.
Mayor Little, I wonder how we might proceed here. We had a motion at the Public Works Committee that we would consider a visioning workshop. So I was expecting we would be talking about the vision for the school, and then once we had done some work on that, we would follow, in accordance with the motion that we passed, a discussion about the options for management. We seem here to be starting with management and not have talked about the vision. And we have this one workshop. We don't have any ideas about carrying on with further work beyond that. I mean, I'm just looking at this as you were speaking. I hadn't seen this prior to the meeting, recommendations about continuing work with our community, but I'm not sure that's not authorized at the moment. We'd have to make a decision like that based perhaps on today's discussion. And so I just want to drop back to the visioning. Are we going to do some visioning here with council? Mayor Little?
I think that's a good idea, Jock and Carmen, and I think that's a good starting place. What is our vision? I think we've heard from the stakeholders that they want to be a part of this, and it'd be great to hear from council what their visions are of the site, and then get a unified vision going forward, if that's okay with the chair.
Yes, I agree with that.
So perhaps we get a bit of a round table here in terms of what you folks vision for this facility. You and I have spoken a little bit about this. Perhaps we can start with you, if you don't mind.
Okay, so my vision for the school is that it would be a multi-use facility for all community members. There would be arts, culture, recreation, but also we have to remember that this is also, this should also be a training facility. The fire chief has put an enormous effort into that, and council even this year has put money towards the training facility in terms of the cage, the training, what is it called?
Tower,
yeah, the training. So by virtue of putting money towards that tower, we are saying that this should also be a training facility. So I would like to continue to see this as a multi-use facility for everybody in the community. I'd like the gym to be available for groups, for children, for youths, and that is an important part that we really haven't concentrated on. We want to keep the youth here rather than having them go to Langford and Colwood to recreate. Children, youth, and then of course our seniors and our arts group So that is my vision, is a multi-use facility, and that's for the whole facility, going right from the tennis courts to hopefully a community garden there, the fields for active green space, for active play, and then the whole school site, including the parking lots. With that, I'll close and hand it over to somebody else. Thank you.
Okay, well, for me, I think first and foremost, the district needs to budget for someone, maybe part-time, to manage it, as far as, and just keeping it simple at the beginning, because we really don't know, because the gym is just getting finished now, and the school is just getting finished, that we really don't know how it's going to work out. We don't know what groups, what community groups are going to want to use it on a regular basis, besides pickleball. And but there's a lot of other things we've heard about. There's some, I've had talk of community groups who'd like to come in for recreational ideas. There's talk of a theater group starting up. There's concerts. There's so many different. There's maybe a monthly lunch at low cost, soup lunch. There's so many different options for it. But until we have someone that will actually be able to set up a calendar, an online calendar, be able to take bookings and be able to talk to people, as well as setting up someone or a group that will check it out at night, or whether we have to hire a security firm, but something like that, so that the facility is kept safe, and someone that would also be able to be available when events that are outside of business hours take place. So to me, that's the very first step, because until we really get something like that organized, we'll just probably keep flailing around. I think our first priority was as a community space, which could be all those things that I mentioned, and hopefully more. I mean, we heard about a natural Aries room, and there's I'm sure there's others out there. So that would be my first step. I think the event community space could be it's just the doors open as to what could go on there. The recreational, as Mary Little mentioned, youth groups, the pickleball group, we have a set up for basketball. We don't have equipment yet, but we've got a set up for basketball and indoor soccer. So there are options for that. The lines are in. The first responder center is extremely important to this community, because as our people here get trained and coordinate with other agencies around the area, that only makes us safer. It just that's a huge part of it, and it's something that we need to hang on to, because that just benefits everyone to have that kind of training going on there. Commercial, that is important, because we're hoping that possibly it will be rented, have some commercial renters, and we can charge pretty big bucks for that. We've heard that we can, sort of the going rate is about $500 a day. So if occasionally we can have commercial renters in there, that would really help with the bottom line. But again, as we haven't had the chance to see how it all works, who's interested in it, who wants to use it, how much it's used, what the conflicts will be. I think the first thing is that we have to have a manager. That would be all I think have for me.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for starting the meeting off with a little bit of the history. I think that's important for people to know where we came from.
You should talk into the mic. Better. It's hard to hear.
Is that better?
I hope so.
No.
No.
Okay, I'm swallowing it pretty quick.
Yeah, just like a Mick Jagger.
Do this one. Okay, can you hear me now?
Try this one. Sort of keep it early.
Oh, there we go, it's working. So I remember when we first bought this building and the community excitement around it and lots of ideas, and those ideas have changed and evolved over time. A lot of the time where it sat, nothing was happening. And it took some community individuals to actually be boots on the ground So those people who, I always call them, they're the doers. They actually get in there and they got something done. So it went through a couple different changes of who was involved. We had consulting companies, we've had real estate companies and all this sort of stuff. So we have also had studies. So we've spent over $50,000 on a consulting firm. We have that on our books. We have a vision and some feedback on that. We also have something that I was involved with the Healthy Communities, and that was the Village Square Gathering Initiative. That's also on our website. So again, pull those things off, dust them off. There's over $80,000 of taxpayers' dollars that should not be ignored. Lots of great ideas shared here this afternoon. I really appreciate that, because we clearly have come to another place. Multi-use, absolutely. It's a facility. The whole property is zoned agricultural institutional, and I think it still is applicable to some degree. The institutional obviously is the educational component of it, and I really support that staying there in all parts of it, whether it's the learning space within the community garden, the recreational part of it. You're always learning that's physical literacy in its element. The training center for first responders and other various emergency elements, arts and culture, a plethora of educational stuff that could happen there. And the list just goes on, whether it's preschool or workshops from how to brew your own beer, that sort of stuff, or grow your own hops. So lots of different things. We are at a place where we need to consider, and this council has already started the process with facility booking. I know myself and Councillor Epp had put together quite a package of fees and whatnot that other community entities have already done before, and how that might fit here with us as far as renting structures and whatnot, if it's community groups or outside agencies, that sort of stuff. We have a lot of options here, and I just want to say thank you to those who actually have created a vision with updating the school. It's still got a lot of work to do. I mean, today they're already testing alarm systems, so that was neat to say we're being brought up to code. There's accessibility issues still that we have to address. That's quite a big project, but we're getting closer and closer. Whether or not the gym will be open for January 1st, I don't know. That's more on the administration side. So yeah, I do see a lot of great opportunity here. Biggest one that's outstanding for me, other than I'm very excited about the whole property as an evolving project for our community, is the fiscal responsibility. When this was first presented to this community, it was to not cost the taxpayers so much, and we are still subsidizing it, so it'd be nice if we weren't the taxpayers subsidizing it. So for it to carry its own, and we have started to see more of those things happening. We had a car show, there could be other, art in the park, there could be all sorts of great things, as long as we're not competing with our other groups, whether it's the community house, the community hall, the businesses. I think it can be quite complementary, and that's just a balance of how event planning and such goes. So having somebody that can actually organize those sorts of things. So that's all I have for now. There's more. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So I guess when I'm looking at this and from our last meeting, the motion that we passed after a discussion there, our goal, it seems to me, was to answer 2 questions for staff in order that they could begin dealing with rental of the gym immediately when it's available. And so they asked us, what is our priority for rentals? And I think we've heard a few times community, recreation, and down to commercial. And then would the management be done in-house, yes or no? So before we're done today, I'd like to answer those, make sure those 2 questions are answered. I'd also like us to have a moment to review the finances so that people understand where we're at in that way. With regards to the vision, before the day's done. With regard to vision, some people have seen a note that I shared with a few folks. A vision for me would be a statement that would say this would be a community-centered facility, that its uses would be recreational, learning, and that includes the fire department's efforts and also consideration for the preschool. So recreation, learning, arts and culture, and sports. It's my view that we should target in a vision statement having a break-even status for us on the financial front. And I would hope and dream that in the future, at some point, community use may pay for the old school. But if that's our target getting there, we would be obviously relying on rents and a subsidy from the district. The question of what the rent should be, of course, depends on how much we're prepared to subsidize through tax rates. So community-centered, the usages I've listed, break-even target on the financial front. I would like us to, in a statement, say that we will keep the building clean and safe. And then finally, let this be easy to administer by the district. So that's my high-level vision for the school. Falling from that, and that's what a council's role would be. We're just going to set those 5 statements, and then we'll turn it to staff and say, would you please get the place going. People have seen the document, they've circulated, some people have. Many of the questions that have been raised today are answered. Once we set the vision, then everything falls from that. If we should have a different vision, I'm open to discussing, figuring out what it would be if there's other elements of a vision. But I'd like us to declare a vision, if not today, before too long. Our staff can then take it from there and come back and say, okay, with that vision, we were able to answer actually quite a few of the questions that we had. We're off and running now. But we've got these questions that we think the council, it's actually council level decision, not a staff level decision to be made. So they'd return with that. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Through you, Councillor Rapp. Just 3 elements to the vision as I would tackle it. Number 1, community focused, and that includes pretty much everything folks have said here. Arts, culture, recreation, training as well. Ideally with an eye to ensuring local access. The second one would be financially sustainable. And the third one, managed effectively. I just want to raise one point about, I think there's a tension between community focused and financially sustainable. And growing up as a young hockey player, I didn't really realize this, but your city or your town is faced every year with cost increases to the arena. And what happens, of course, is your fees for playing hockey every year go up. But what happens too is those fees don't cover the actual cost of the increases to the arena. Those are often borne by the city or the town. And so there's both an individual fee you pay, but there's a collective and a shared responsibility as well to maintaining that asset. So, and just thinking about the potential of, say, preschool, using the gym or the school or the training center. Are we going to do full cost recovery from that for the preschool? I feel that's probably a bit of a stretch. So there's a tension between being really community focused and financially sustainable, and we as a council maybe have to be the arbiter of that. That goes also as well for being managed effectively. I would tend toward having an in-house resource, but as I understand the current staffing complement, that is potentially a new body within our district. I will say this myself. As I get to know this role more and all the demands that are placed on staff, council, not the demands, but also the desires that we have in the community, I feel like we are tremendously under-resourced in this district. And we have to take a good close look at that, because being under-resourced, it costs to resource up, but it costs significantly to be under-resourced, both in terms of the environment and, as we've seen in some of the cases, the degradation of your assets. So those are the 3 elements that I have: community-focused, financially sustainable, and managed effectively. But I think that there are some significant questions that we all need to address in terms of that as a vision and firming it up and testing it as well. One final thing, I was doing some work on a community grant that would be focused on the village core, and I just came to understand what a remarkable place our village core is when you think about all that we have here, from a cemetery to a historic church to an art gallery to a gym that will be used to a training center for valued firefighters, to the fire hall, to the, of course, the district building, riding ring, cricket pitch, community house. I don't think there's another community in the CRD where the village center is such a focal gathering point and so defines the community like ours. So I agree the school is a very significant part, but I think we as a council and then we as a community have to also grapple with how we are going to resource that effectively. So thank you very much.
Okay, so Carmen and Jock, want to continue?
Go ahead. Thank you. In some of the literature that was sent to us, there was talk about a long-term and a short-term look at this project. Could I get some more information on that, please? What does that mean in terms of management, short-term and long-term?
Councillor Gray?
In our briefing, when we decided to have the meeting today, the staff asked us in the short term to decide the priorities for rental of the gym and whether or not we were going to be managing in-house, and there were several options, contracted out, or a partnership with a non-profit organization.
Right, right. Do you think council is prepared today to make a judgment on management?
I don't think so.
I certainly am. We would like to be renting it as soon as the renovations are finished, which is maybe 4 or 5 weeks away. So I think, at least in the short term, I don't think there are a lot of options other than having the district take it on. If there are other options, maybe they could be put on the table today, and we could discuss them and decide in the next few weeks who would be doing that. If not the district.
Right. Anybody else in regard to that?
Yeah, thank you. So my vision for the management over the next little while would be effectively managed by a community organization or a community committee. And this would have, the community committee would be represented by all the stakeholders, and they would be reporting directly to council. And that, I think that would be a great place to start, because as you've heard from Councillor Shukin and probably from others in the district, is we're extremely short on dollars. And we don't have a lot of manpower nor money to put towards this. And so my pitch would be to have an organization, a committee, Arts and Culture Committee, with a member from all the different stakeholders on the committee, and they would be responsible for the management of the school, reporting directly to council.
Right. Any other opinions about?
Who wants to go? Well, I can see that, respectfully, that idea, but I don't see how that can happen in a matter of a few weeks when we need to have something in place. Somebody can handle bookings, somebody that can put up a website, that can have a calendar, that can oversee the day-to-day operations of it. I think a committee would take much longer to go, and then how they go about doing that. It's not just an instant sort of thing to try to create a group of volunteers, and we are a little short on volunteers anyway in the community. So to do that, so I'm not sure that would be, as far as a short-term plan to be able to get it up and running and used, and then it's kind of like a living document kind of idea where it's going to evolve as the year goes along. Councillor Shukin.
Thanks, Councillor. I said I wasn't really ready to make a decision today, but only because I think we need more input from staff in terms of what a resource would cost. So, I mean, that's just a fundamental thing if we were to do it in-house or if we were to go outside. So that's my hesitation. To Mayor Little's point, perhaps that doesn't address the immediate desire to have, the gym ringing with the sound of pickleballs first thing in the new year. But the question of governance, especially when there's multiple users, I think might be suitable for what Mayor Little is saying. I think you mentioned the possibility of a commission in the past, so that's something I think would be good to do. Still, I could see getting out the gate too and start to use the facility. So, yeah.
We have Ms. Tarnowski. Can you come and give us some input from the staff perspective?
Thank you very much. So my recommendations for moving on is for council to either reaffirm or come up with new priorities that the previous council had discussed in terms of priority user groups. So those being, the first one is community use, the second one's recreation, third one's fire and emergency response training center, and the fourth one's being commercial. So if we can get direction from council, that's the either reconfirm or make some changes to the set priority use, and then we can follow up with all the other issues that we've discussed over to date. Management of that, I think, is really secondary to, first and foremost, confirming if those are still the relevant prioritized user groups, and of course to seek feedback from the community as well.
All right, thank you. It seems like that is something that we could make a resolution. It seems like we're all pretty much in agreement. I don't know, I'll maybe make a motion to start with that we do set the top 4 priorities as for use as community, 1, 2 recreation, 3 first responder and community emergency, and 4 commercial.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Okay, council discussion. Councillor Gray?
Yeah, I would be satisfied with that list with an understanding that we're providing this to staff in order to begin to book the gym. So there's the whole facility is one thing, but if this is about the gym use, I would be good with it. I'd like to, though, mention this caution, I guess. And that is that if we set things up with, say, a sport group who are coming and using the facility once a week, they're set up like that. That seems to be sensible. It's a gym, basically, so let's let the people who want to use the gym as a gym use it. And then if a community group says, well, we'd like to book it, for a week or for a day or for a weekend or something, it would be incumbent upon them to book it in advance so that the people who are having a regular sports event, every week, those who want it for a longer period would register, and the sports people, who's ever there, would have time to understand they're not going to be there. So we've said community use first. I just want to be clear, people who are regularly using it. I'm not entirely sure, to be completely honest, how much use the gym will get. So we have this idea it's going to be really, really busy and all these people booking, and well, maybe not. Maybe we'll have pickleball, that's coming for sure. Maybe there'll be a floor hockey group if we buy some nets. Maybe there'll be basketball, we get basketball nets, but we have neither of the nets for either of those sports today. So, and it'll take some time. Maybe we'll be basketball league will be here, who knows? But I think to think that there's going to be so much going on that we can't possibly manage it is probably not to be worried about. But the staff need the ability to manage these uses in a way that they see best, and then we can revisit the question. So I'm speaking in favor of the motion, but I also want to be clear, when the fire department needs it for a training, they know too. They can book it in advance, And as long as it's in advance and it helps everybody get organized, and so you have that coordination. I'm not wanting to diminish the fire hall's access to the facility by declaring these uses. We're just trying to get it out the gate to say, let's get going. The final thing I'll say just right now is that let's not forget, as was mentioned earlier, there are quite a few facilities in the center of Metchosin here. So we have different uses in different locations, and they're all available for us. There will need to be some discussion at some point about the question of whether we intend this to be mostly gym use or something else. Is it a dance hall? I mean, we have a dance hall already. The question is, which places do we want to sort of direct the traffic? The gym will start to take a different look. It looks beautiful today. I was over there this morning with some of the council and the fire chief, and it looks beautiful. But it's going to change. It's not going to look like that if we're having all kinds of events in that room. It won't look quite like the gym does. Anyway, my point really is, I'm good with the thing as long as we have that wiggle room or that attention to detail for the staff to follow through and make sure we're not crowding out our key fire department and our key community groups, making room for sports.
Okay, Councillor Shu.
Councillor, would you mind, could we hear the motion one more time? I'm sorry, I'm a little forgetful this afternoon.
Well, just, did you get the motion?
To recommend that council set the top 4 priorities for use as community, recreation, first responder and community emergency, and commercial.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, and we're talking about the gym right now.
I was mostly, yeah, I mean, I know what I've been talking about, I'm mostly focusing on that because that's, it's kind of an issue right now. Obviously, we do need to expand into the grounds and stuff, but I'm thinking that's something that will happen. Hopefully we'll have that organized before the wet, warm weather sets in.
Excuse me, can I make a point of order?
No, actually, I'm sorry, that's not possible. Sorry.
So, Councillor, I'm happy to support the motion, but I don't think the motion has to be amended at all. But on a test drive basis, to get use of the gym right away, and with the potential, like we can look at this as we move along. It is interesting when you think about some of these uses and prioritizing. I mean, I like Councillor Gray, I wouldn't want to deny the first responders some of their training. But again, it may come down to a deeper question of governance and how the priorities are actually materializing, who gets to actually be on the wood floor. So back to Mayor Little's point. So I'm happy to support the motion.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson, and then Mayor Little.
Yeah, I'm actually the one, there's a 5th user here, or 5th priority, and I don't wish to see that to be put aside for later because it will be an extension of some of the activities going on inside of the building, and that is the green space. I have seen that green space be used by the training, and I'd like to see it be able to be available for that. So I think it does need to be included. I also believe that green space can be used via the arts if they were to showcase the Merry Market or the art in the park or whatever. So I don't think that, I feel like we're already seeing silos, that we should actually look at this in a more holistic perspective. It is one property, it needs to stay as one property. And that 5th priority is key to complement the building as well and the activities with it.
I guess we specify that the priorities for the school would include the building and the grounds. Does that work? I think Mayor Little was next.
Yeah, thank you. So if we're talking about the gym, and that wasn't included in your motion, but if we're just talking about the gym, I would like to hear from the fire chief regarding the first responders having the 3rd priority. I would actually like to see the first responders training at the front, up front, and followed by community recreation and green space. They're not going to use it 100% of the time, but I would like to see community safety and the first responder training up front, because I don't want them to be inhibited going forward by somebody who got there first. I think we should amend the motion to include where we're discussing just the gym here, not the whole site.
Okay, Councillor Gray and then Chief Dunlop. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just offer an amendment to the motion such that what we read already as pertaining to the gym. So I wanted to be clear, we're talking about the gym here today. This is the one that we've got to get dealt with. So, so the motion as written with adding as pertaining to the gym. And then I'm going to add also with appropriate changes in priority in accordance with the volume and timing of rentals with appropriate notice.
Do we have a seconder for the amendment? Okay, moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll just speak to it to say that my notion is to resolve the question that Mary Lil is raising, which is I think it's an issue of managing it. We lay out our priorities and then let the staff go at it, and then we get a test drive. We see where it's at. If it turns out that that's not working for the fire department, or not working for the sports, we'll hear about it, and we can make some adjustments.
Anyone else wish to speak on the amendment? That Councillor.
I just have one comment with that. All along, we've kind of been the tail's kind of wagging the dog. We're chasing. We get things out of the gate, and we haven't thought it through. We only have 2 weeks left of this year for a commitment for our staff. So to be cognizant of time and what they're able to manage, because then we start shutting things down for the holidays, and then bam, we're right into January. So to be sensitive as to how this will be managed coming out of the starting date. And I'd like some input from staff on that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. We have a motion. We have a motion on the table. So we'll just I'll call a question on the amendment to the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's Councillor Epp, Gray, and Shukin in favor. Councillor Donaldson and Mayor Little opposed. Okay, perhaps we get comment from the fire chief before voting on the original motion.
Thank you very much. In relation to the use of the gym, is that kind of what we're looking for?
Yes.
Right. I think that we can work within the schedule of however it comes down. Truly appreciate the fact that you feel the priority for the responder training. I too think it's very important. However, I also think collaboration and coordination with all the community events and organizations here is imperative. Most of the time we do any training, it is booked well in advance, so we will be able to book that. On the odd times where we're doing like medical simulations or something, if the space is not being used, then we might access it at that point in time. I don't foresee this being a huge roadblock, and certainly could coordinate. The only concern or caveat to that would be is if we, if there was a conflict, say we booked something, months in advance, and there was a conflict we had to cancel. That would probably be a little bit of a hiccup for us. So, for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Councillor Gray.
So I just say that I think that hearing that from the fire chief and the earlier representation made by a member of the fire department, I think that we can go forward with the motion as it is currently amended.
Okay, anyone else, any further discussion on that? Councillor Donaldson.
Again, getting back to the administration and the concerns around liabilities insurances, which I don't know we've really addressed yet with staff, so I'd like some feedback on a report or something from staff in that regard when we start bringing in user groups or various recreationals.
Okay, maybe after this motion, we can get a little more comment from the CEO. All right, so on the amended motion, all in favor? Opposed? Right, that passes unanimous. All right, so on that note, Mr. Nowski, could you give us your thoughts on how we can proceed in 2 weeks?
Good news first or the good news first? So the good news is that we do have a draft fee set up. It's not to say that's finalized, but we have the draft started, we have the liability waivers, everything all in place and ready to go. We just need to know confirmation of the prioritized user groups which council has passed. So we're just about ready to go. I just need the word to say what's the priority of the use of the space.
Right, and so there's going to be, we have like a fee, I know we have talked about this in the past, but the fee schedule and how that'll work for the different levels of users, whether they're nonprofit or commercial or whatever. So I know that is in place. And so do you think that we have enough that at least we can do a tentative, start in the new year, given of course that everything is all finished?
We definitely can. If I can also ask a question, if the committee wishes to direct staff to seek input and feedback from the Metchosin residents, if those priorities are something that they can support, or just to get feedback from the residents. So it's just a question for the committee, if you would like to pass on.
Yeah, I think I see heads nodding. That'd be useful for council, I think, to let staff receive some of that input. Or not.
Do we need a motion? Do we need a motion, or we can do that by consent?
Would you like a motion? Or?
Yes, please, for the motion.
I would move that the priorities that council has declared in terms of booking the gym, I think it's the gym we're talking about, be brought to the public for their input. So moved.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion, so Councillor Gray.
I'll just offer that some of this input will come as people ask to book the gym, and we'll find out what's going on, and getting the feedback would be tremendous. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's definitely going to be a learning curve. I mean, we've been doing this now for a few years, the learning part, and it's just continuing, but hopefully a little more structured. Councillor Shukin.
Thank you, Councillor. I've just threw you a question to Ms. Tarnowski. Thanks for all the work to get us ready for the new year. I haven't seen anything about the fees, so can you talk about sort of generally what they're based on, or how you came to structure them?
Okay.
And again, that goes back to the point I was making about financial sustainability. So.
Right. So the fees did come before council, I want to say August, something like that. So my timing, recollection of timing may be off, but it definitely has come in front of council as the first draft, at which time we discussed a little bit about the how-tos and the prioritizing as to no different than what we discussed earlier. So if somebody wants to bump a booking that's really in place, how does that go about? However, with today's motion of setting the priorities, I'll definitely make that process a lot clearer to not just council staff, but the community as well. So we still have to work on refining the details. However, we have a little bit more clear direction now going forward.
Great. Councillor Donaldson.
Through the chair to Ms. Tarnowski, would you be able to have this complete draft together for us so we can look at it for the council meeting on Monday night and vote on it then? That's our last meeting before we break for the holidays, I believe.
No, actually, we have a committee. We have committees, but
it has to go out to council.
Right.
We could get it for the committee on the 11th, because to get ready for Monday's meeting, the package has to go out, has to be generated right now, for it to go out tomorrow for Monday's meeting.
Yeah.
So
and then it goes to council after the committee meeting, correct? So that's again into January.
Well, I think it would give us a starting point. I mean, as we talked about, we don't really know, but I think, I rely on Mr. Nowski to, I know that you've checked out fees at various different places, including in the community, with the community house, the community hall, one if you could rec, or West Shore Rec. and to set those fees. And I mean, nothing really is written in stone. We'll need to evolve depending on the usage, but at least it would be a place to start, even if we can't, totally discuss it right now. Councillor Gray.
Through the chair, I think this is because of the financial decision, it does need to come to council. And so I would just suggest we have a special council meeting for a brief time after the committee meetings on that night, and we could do it all in one shot.
Yeah. Was that be acceptable to everybody? Okay, and that's what we'll do then. Yes?
Can I just add one more comment in terms of, so right now we're talking about the short term, just really to make the facility available for use. The more deeper involved conversation is going to be long-term financial wise, which I've heard numerous times being brought up today. So that's a conversation that should be happening at our budget meetings, because that is going to be a bit more involved and than just renting out the gym facilities right now. But also keeping in mind when we have that bit of a longer term discussion is that whatever revenue we're projecting is all our guesses. We have no idea what it's going to be. It's going to be closed, not closed, whatever it is. The first year is just really a period for us to test or see how well we estimated the fees will be generating.
Right. That's great. Well, thanks very much for your input. So I think, could we get back to to our visioning workshop here? Yes.
If I may, thank you for delineating the short term versus the long term. I think the long term is why we were brought in here to discuss. We did put 5 options that we know are in use in the Vancouver Island area. So I think perhaps that is something that we need to determine, or certainly you folks need to determine, in terms of administration models.
I did have a question about the examples that you gave, and the funding for all of them basically comes from the municipalities or the cities. And I just wondered if you had any idea of how much funding that say Cowichan or Port Hardy or whatever actually putting into their facilities every year. If it's a lot amount, like that's one thing we've been concerned about is we're a small, very financially tight municipality, and so unlike some of the larger ones, or maybe some that have more economic benefit, it would be interesting to know what kind of money they're putting out each year for these facilities.
I actually phoned everybody on that list to ask about just the particulars I have. We certainly can get those figures off to you, I believe, before very long. But I think a lot of this flows from the administrative model. So if, for example, it's an in-house model, you can take a look at the budget. You can say you can make projected revenues from the facility. I'm not sure there's much other way to take a look at how that applies to your particular facility. But it's going to be different, an in-house one, as opposed to somebody who would come in and as a professional use that to basically to oversee the operation. I think my opinion would be that at least it needs to be examined in terms of the model that's going to be used. And perhaps that should come up for discussion here.
All right, Council, any discussion on this? Councillor Gray.
Could you put up the options you wanted us to consider again?
Yes.
Please.
Councillor, may I interrupt before we continue?
Sure.
There's still motion on the floor to seek public input on the established priorities.
All right, sorry about that. All right, so I can't even remember who moved it or seconded it. But have you got that? That was not? Okay, I think we've got it. So, okay, so call a question then on that. All in favor? That's fast. All right, now we can move on.
I may need somebody to help me with this.
Can the audience ask a question? Could you put it to a vote?
Thank you.
May I ask a question of context?
You know, I don't think so. I think there will be a time after the meeting.
It's just to understand what you're saying. You see, you own two other properties, Metchosin House and Metchosin Community Hall, and I'm just wondering what the model is there, because why isn't it just an extension of that? But you know, this is just to understand, because we're listening, but we don't understand why you're creating a new model when you already have two or three. Building. Yes. Well, I don't know.
Very different buildings, very different facilities between the house and the school. So, short answer.
The models are up on the screen right now. These are the models that we looked at on Vancouver Island, which seems very applicable in terms of regionality. So the first one, of course, is facilities owned and operated by municipalities, that's in-house. Facilities with long-term lease from municipalities. That, for example, would be Parksville, who oversees the general management under a lease basis. Outsourced professional management, I believe there's some experience with this building with an outsourced management. Long-term lease to arts and culture organization. And the other option is a sale of facilities to arts and cultural organizations. Now this was, we looked at this in terms of MACA and some of the organization that they've been doing. What's the best possible route, which model that we have examined to take a look at.
Councillor Gray.
So maybe I'll just take a run at the list here, starting at the bottom. We have no intention of selling facilities, so number 5 can disappear. A long-term lease to the Arts and Cultural Organization. It's in fact, we have a lease already with the Arts and Cultural Association, but we also have 2 commercial tenants we have direct leases with. So number 4 doesn't work for us, I don't think. Number 3, outsourced professional management. I'm myself not interested in that. There's a certain cost to have somebody else involved on top of the regular running. So my guess is if we run it ourselves in the district, it'll be less expensive than professional management, but we could canvass the group on that one, Chair Epp. Number 2, facilities with a long-term lease. Again, we have multiple people leasing there, so I don't think that fits. So from my view on the list there, have I wiped them all out? The one at the top, facility owned and operated by the municipality, seems to be the one that's available to us here in Metchosin from that list.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, those are all really good points. I do want to state that actually we don't have long-term leases. I think our leases are up within 5 years or less. So that's not long-term.
Just to say, the 2 leases with the commercial operations are 5-year renewal at the option of the people leasing the buildings. So we don't really have a choice in that so much. It's their choice. Those are essentially 5 years with a check-in at the 5th year and then another 5 years. So they're 10-year leases in total. So we have 4 years left and then a full 9 years left on the 2 commercial leases. The other ones agreed, they're year by year, but right now we, when I say I don't see the options there, I think that's fair enough.
Councillor, who was next? Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, a question through the chair to Ms. Sarnowski about a lease question about. Point of clarity, Ms. Sarnowski, the lease, there's 2 leases, I believe, that are teacups. Is that correct?
No, only one.
Just one? And
Correct.
what is the timeline on that for renewal?
So the one non-teacup one is just 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacup one, I believe, is hate to give you a number because I'm not. 3 years, I believe, is what it is.
We do
3
have,
years with one renewal. Yeah.
Can we clarify what a teacup is?
Temporary use permit. Thank you.
Councillor Shukin.
So my default approach to this is in-house management, and maybe because I haven't thought more deeply about the other options, but it just seems right for where we're at. But the question I would have is, what is the scope of the management kind of the role? Because it strikes me that MACA has their scope and their turf. Instinct has its area, and then so the main focus of the management aspect is the gym, which is bound to get complicated. It seems like the main focus of the management role would be the gym. Am I correct in thinking that, or?
I think that would just
or
be
the field and whatnot.
That would just be part of it. I think once the booking and arrangements are set up, that's part of it. But as was mentioned earlier, there's a lot to do with maintenance and upkeep and then managing any commercial tenants that are in there. Yes, go ahead.
I think you have a very unique opportunity here because you're putting everything on the table to come up with those decisions that are beneficial to the community. And the objectives need to be set about what that should be. And I think that's where a select committee to strike a committee that would be a committee from the council that looks at those aspects, that can talk about policies that need to be put in place and the parameters of what that organization should be doing. And so I do think that this is a unique opportunity to let every person have their say, to let the stakeholders have the say, for that to go to that committee to look at that will report to City Council. I believe that there's areas of expertise that you can get from the community here that you don't have to pay for. And I think that at this stage, that's obviously an important point. But again, I reiterate that I think that to have a committee that will report to council, that can be chosen by council and perhaps by the stakeholders, I think would be a very necessary piece to put those small pieces into place.
Mary Lou.
Along those lines, again, I reiterate that my preference would be to have the long-term management governance of this facility, multi-use facility, by a community commission. Because what I'm looking at is we've got multiple stakeholders, everybody wants an input. This would allow everybody to have input, and I'm looking to our staff complement, and I just really can't see whether we're going to have to add another person to the personnel to help with this or what, and I think try it for a year or a year and a half. Community commission to manage and govern the school. We could give them a certain amount of staff time and try it. If it doesn't work, well, nothing lost. Then we would shift to something else.
For me, certainly the first one, the facility owned and operated by the municipality is what we need to do probably. I mean, the only other viable one is a long-term lease to an arts and culture organization, but as we know, that's usually a volunteer-run organization, which can be pretty dynamic and movement of people and changes. And I think having it operated by the district is the most stable way to go. As far as a commission, if that's what council goes forward with, that's fine, but that doesn't address the day-to-day operation starting in January. Ms. Tarnowski.
So at the staff level, we have been giving a lot of thoughts to just that, the day-to-day operations, and I'll bring forward a report on that, all the options and that we have considered, and to see council's feedback on that. So.
Okay, that'd be
Sound
great.
reasonable?
I think that's something that we can deal with in January. Councillor Gray?
I just want to speak to this idea of setting up a commission. So under the community charter,
No, I just think, sorry.
under the community charter, we can have advisory select committees, and we can have something called standing committees, and we can have municipal commissions. Commissions aren't involved in oversight, though. Commissions have a job to do, and their job would be to operate the services. So they'd be, if one was to do that, you would be handing over operations of the school, all the maintenance and everything, to a distinct group. A commission can also undertake operation and enforcement in relation to the council's exercise of its authority to regulate, prohibit, and impose requirements. And a commission can manage the property and the licenses held by the municipality. So setting up a commission would mean, I expect, handing over the entire operation, including the leases and everything else, to somebody else other than the District of Metchosin. And they would work at arm's length from us. My view is sounds like a hellishly complex thing to do in a small little community like Metchosin. We already have elected a governance body to take care of this kind of thing. And I guess what comes to mind is keep it simple. I guess I don't want to add the last S there. We have a volunteer workforce who've done, just hold our community together, basically. We removed money from the budget last year that was supporting our volunteer groups. Now to come up and say, okay, but now we'd like to get a bunch of volunteers to run and operate the school. Well, there are people operating it right now, but what I take from setting up a commission is handing them a much bigger job. And as someone's already mentioned, we're having some difficulty replacing volunteers who are working. So I just can't see putting a load on volunteers to run, operate, manage, govern, all of that. When we're sitting here, we've got staff here. If we want to do this properly, we have to invest a little bit of money. I don't see any reduction in money, by the way, setting up a commission. It's going to be the same or a little bit more than our staff doing it. I recognize Councillor Schuken's point that this means more money for staff. The idea of having staff run it, that's just the cost of doing business. And this means something to our community. I don't think adding tax dollars to make this happen is a particularly problematic decision, at least from my perspective.
Very little.
I was wondering if I could get perspective from Jock and Carmen regarding community the size of our community, 5,000, setting up a commission. And has it been done other places in knowledge?
There are committees adjunct to municipalities and districts. Often their terms of reference are to look at policies that would be recommended to the board. In terms of a commission, I'm not so sure I've seen that actually happen in practice. I think that if you can have staff, that gives the most stable position you'll be able to find. Nevertheless, getting input from the stakeholders on a regular basis, I think is truly, truly important. These guys need to be able to bring their concerns to you, and I think that's where that particular advisory committee could be very, very helpful for you folks. Everybody needs to be heard. Everybody has a point of view that's important, and especially in a small community like this, voices don't get washed away as they do in larger communities. So that's my point of view there. Staff, if you can find staff to manage that would be the most ideal situation.
I have a thought that I know there's people here from the Community Association, and I'm wondering, since there is a new coordinator at the Community House, and just for a very short-term period until council can get together in January and go through some of the budget talks. Right now, that coordinator at the community house does do the bookings for this part of the municipal field, and I'm wondering if there's any way that that person might be able to take on the bookings for the gym just to start with. Ms. Tarnowski.
I can certainly have that conversation and then report back on in the near future on the other options that staff have given consideration to managing the day-to-day operations. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. So, council, to feel about having staff come back with a report about the day-to-day operations, just at least to get us started, and then in January, then we can get together and talk about a committee or a commission, or and we will be discussing an employee or a contractor when we continue with budget talks. Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I had the pleasure of meeting the new employee of MCA. And when I made a comment about booking on the calendar, I not from this particular individual, but somebody that was in the room, I was actually put back on my heels, like, no, we're not doing that. So I'm a little bit cautious to actually do that to somebody that's new still. Certainly we'd have to do some consultation. I don't dismiss the idea, because I could think of something like that before, because we've got two entities that actually could probably help in that regard. However, I do support what Mr. Hildebrand has stated in conjunction what Mayor Little has, in that and we've all experienced the value of our advisory committees in this community, having a very diverse group, and the passion in this room today is pretty clear of having community stakeholder from all of those entities. We would not have a problem getting people to step up, I don't think, for that advisory committee. We have openings on the other ones. It's that time of year where people move on as we renew the terms of reference. But I certainly support an advisory committee as well, and sooner than later, to help us with this, because I think that would be respectful to the community stakeholders in this room today.
Councillor Schuch.
Thank you, Councillor. With the question of ongoing governance, I got really focused there on just getting the gym going, the scope of management function. But this question of, again, governance, I think, is a big one, and especially in time if we decide to go out and market the facility that we have. And I'm thinking of the open field, and whether we want to consider that for future events, say, and again, reap some sufficient revenue from that. So even the function of marketing the space and the facility that we have is going to take some time and resourcing, but there might be some benefits to doing that effectively. So again, it's a question we're not going to settle today, but there is an outstanding issue there that I think we need to tackle as we go along here. So.
Right, any more comments? So just move it back to you, Mr. Hildebrand.
Thank you. We did put recommendations that we have essentially community circle group, and that everybody can have input that would go back in a report to council. It does, I think that the one group, we've spoken with a number of the stakeholders here already this morning who we haven't spoken to is MACA. I would like to very much to include their viewpoint, and perhaps we could Zoom them and just get an understanding of where they are. I think that's very, very important. We are a major player in this game. And then perhaps after that, if it seems advisable, to have a meeting with all of the stakeholders in a very informal way, so this can be talked about, and may well lead to composition of the committee that we've been talking about.
Well, I think we already did, yes, we could do that in the new year, but as Mr. Nowski mentioned, that she is going to be available to take some feedback from stakeholders and people who are here today. I don't know if you have anything else that that you had in mind for us to be discussing, or anyone else does, if we should get on with that before we ask for more public input today.
We were asked to especially take a look at the models of administration, and that was our particular focus. Since we've been here, we realized that there's a few more stakeholders than we sort of understood to be. But I think that pretty much our recommendations would stand. Of course, it's up to you folks to do it. Any independent, I think it's very necessary to have somebody independent to lead that kind of discussion, not necessarily us. There may be independent people from the community who can do that, but that would be our recommendation.
Mayor Little.
Yeah, I like the idea of a circle dialogue with the different stakeholders. We can advertise more broadly. There may be other groups out there that are interested in having their voice heard. So I like the idea of a workshop, informal, a circle dialogue with all the different stakeholders. It'd be great if we could get some kind of consensus at the table here to talk about our vision. And it doesn't need to be in cement or in stone. It's just what is our vision for the school. We've talked about it already, and it'd be sort of great if Jock and Carmen could lead us through that exercise as well, knowing that it's a draft vision.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the direction that we should go in. And I don't think I have anything further to add to that, except that if we can ask stakeholders and groups to say, here, send us 2 representatives to this, so we don't have an enormous room with an inability for everybody to speak. So if the stakeholders could bring 1 or 2 representatives to that meeting, that would make the meeting go in a much quicker fashion and likely with much less possible friction.
Councillor Gray.
Yeah, so should we turn to the vision question?
Am I on or off now?
No.
On, okay. So as I was taking notes and also initially hearing from the community, what a repeated theme was here for the vision was that it is in fact a multi-use facility, that it is a community hub, that it's a multi-use facility. So I don't know if you want to wordsmith a vision statement at this point, or if you just want to have consensus on perhaps a few key phrases that you want to have in your vision statement around multi-purpose use and around priorities and it being a community gathering space. So we can sort of start out with those words and see if you want to agree on sort of an initial perhaps vision statement around multi-purpose. And maybe we'll just do a little brainstorming around that and see what sort of phrases you individually may want to have in the vision statement, and then it can be kind of a working vision until you get down to the actual wordsmithing at some point.
Well, ideas. Mayor Little.
Yeah, so within that vision statement, I wanted to, of course, a multi-use facility that's community focused and a home to arts, culture, training, learning, and recreation that is financially sustainable and governed and managed effectively by maybe just and stop, governed and managed effectively.
Bravo. I said bravo.
Bravo.
We're done.
solid vision statement. The one thing I'm trying to think about how to tack on to the end is govern. It's not so much locally, but it's community-based governance or stakeholder-based governance or something to hone that in a little bit. So, but yeah, I'd have to take a look at the words on paper. But thanks.
Is somebody back there typing fast enough to get that? Because yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So because we're doing it a little bit blind, so then we can add to it, and there's an ability for somebody to sort of read it back at the end and capture that. Okay. I very often use a flip chart, and this happened really fast. So okay, I'll just let you continue the discussion to see if you want to tag anything else onto that.
Well, I'm not sure about the financially sustainable part of it because I don't know if that's possible. But anyway, we can see about that. I think it should be, a gathering place for the community that promotes mental health and wellness for the community in activities and other plans. I can't think of the right wording, but that would sustain us in this community. Councillor Shipp.
The fact that this is gathering point for seniors as well as visitors who come, did that have I'm forgetting if there's a place for all ages within the community
I forgot to add that point, so in there I was going to say for all generations. Good point.
Sure, go ahead.
And again, I use the term financially sustainable, but not even break even. And we have to, again, as a council, as a community, decide what that is, because I think I'm open to, right now, we put in the order of anywhere from 170 to 190,000 if you account for depreciation of the building itself. So again, if we can whittle that down, great. But I don't think sustainability necessarily excludes like a contribution from the municipality or sustainable. Yeah, but the concern is, of course, is that we don't fund the building, if we don't attend to the maintenance, do we get ourselves to a point where it isn't sustainable, where we have costs that just don't allow us to continue with the building. That's something we need to keep an eye on for sure. So to me, that's what sustainability might mean.
Okay, other ideas, contributions? Councillor Gray.
Sure, I'm just back to my earlier list. Thanks, Mayor Little, for knocking off a few of them. I guess from my point of view, I might, rather than say community focused, I might offer community centered. And what I mean by that, perhaps it's more words, but we're prioritizing local use. In other words, this is for our community, certainly welcoming people from elsewhere, and we may find in time this is a great place for, say, West Shore Parks and Rec to have events here or things going on. But my point is, mostly we're talking local. So I would offer community-centered. When I think about, I think clean and safe is an important thing from my perspective, and there's lots to be done on that front. I know the Councillor Shubin's working on the period safe policies for or implementation in the district. I think we need things like sharps containers in the bathrooms, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if the community is aware, but when this council started off, we identified that there's lead in the pipes over there, and there might be some danger from lead ingestion in the community. And so we had all that tested, and now things are safe for the community in that regard. It's been double tested, and we've turned off a lot of the taps. In fact, the water's not potable. So safety is an important thing from my perspective. I like the addition, Councillor F, that you've put in there, which came from yourself, but also from the audience today, about a gathering space, thinking about how we bring people together. And then in terms of governed and managed effectively, to me, effective is a good word, but another thing is ease. In other words, I said it earlier, keep it simple. We want this to be as easy as possible to do. we've got a lot of issues we're dealing with, everyone knows about in the district. So easy stuff is really what we're at, or reduce complexity as best we can. I'd offer one other thought about the financially sustainable. Sustainable is a word that's used a lot. It's kind of become relatively meaningless. What I'm interested in is saying, look, let's make a target of breaking even. And what I mean by that is it may be that we need to increase rents. We won't have a possibility maybe for 5 or 10 years to address the commercial rents. And they're people can check out the leases and what they say. But we have to look at the question of what are we prepared to do on that front. But also when we're renting priority-wise, I understand that some of the training that the fire department does for other districts brings in income. So there's a question there, as time goes on, we may be wanting to adjust that. If they can do more, that will bring us more dollars into the pot, or other things that come along. So I think we need to be thinking more about setting a target that helps us know what the rents should be. So when I say break even, I'm thinking, what's our subsidy level going to be? Are we okay with I think our current subsidy is probably, it's in the sheets we have here, in the agenda package. The way I read it, our current subsidy is about $38,512 for, excuse me, that's the budget for 2023. So that's a level of subsidy. Are we comfortable with that? Then that's great. If not, then we have to take a look at it. I'll also point out well, maybe that's enough for now.
Well, how about we just create about 10 words or so, or 10 short phrases, and then get some kind of automatic chat thing to put it all together in a statement.
There may be a difference between a vision statement and a mission statement. A vision statement really should be a sentence that really crystallizes what you're trying to say. A mission statement, you can get into further things of financial nature, and perhaps even a good word for the financial thing is viable.
So we need a sentence now. Well, you've heard what people have said, so what would you suggest as a sentence?
Well, I think you do want some of those sort of critical phrases in there about accessibility and things like that. So it should be as short and succinct as possible. I think maybe, I actually do like the idea of let's have words in there that we figure are important should be in there, and then the wordsmithing, I mean, I'm even happy to sleep on that one and send you a statement later on. But if you want to agree on the key words that would describe the vision, and again, a vision generally being aspirational versus operational. So I do like a lot of the things that are in there. Can we maybe have it slowly read back and just pick out the words that you feel are critical to have in a vision statement?
I'm not sure. Are you able to decipher any of that and read it back? Read some of it back, would you?
If I could make a suggestion, perhaps we could receive that and make several suggestions in terms of a vision statement for you folks to take a look at and then work with or accept.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I think you probably heard enough to know what we're thinking. So all right, so there's our, hopefully we'll have a vision statement coming up. So what would you suggest we move on to next?
I think that I would, if it's all right, I would like to hear more from the community. I think that we've covered the bases we need to. Would everybody agree with that on council here?
Sure, Councillor Gray.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
I wonder if we could just talk about the finances for a moment.
Well, I think we could have our CFO come up and talk about the numbers that are in here.
So I'll just say that I'm not interested in in-depth discussion of the numbers. I thought we could just hear more or less the bottom line, and then we can just kick that around briefly. But I don't think we have to go into it in depth because we will be covering the budget. Just to be fair to the community who are here, who haven't necessarily seen these materials before, it'd be worthwhile. Through the chair, if I may, Ms. Czerneski, what I did to come up with the subsidy level of $38,512 is I took the bottom 2023 budget, the bottom number was $91,012, and I removed the $42,500, which is labeled repayment. I see that actually as money that isn't going to the school, it's going to another purpose. So it's really not part of the school budget. It's simply a commitment that people made to spend the money on, to put in our reserve for future use. So the actual subsidy of the operations versus the income would appear to me to be 91,000 minus the 42,500.
So that's correct, Councillor Gray. I think going forward is at this time we can discuss the financials at very high level. It depends on, as I've mentioned earlier, is really what is our guesstimate on the revenue that will be generated. In line with that, we will have additional expenses to go with that because we have to have somebody check the facilities. Some of the janitorial services is going to go up. Arguably, perhaps hydro is going to go up as well. So we're really starting at a point where we're guesstimating on both the revenue and expenses. But however, I can confidently say right now, even being very conservative, it will not be at a break-even point. I don't see that going forward in the next 2-3 years for sure, even as far as 5 years. So we can, to a certain extent, influence the revenue that we'll be generating through a strategy. But if, again, coming back to the established priority of uses, that will have a huge impact on how much revenue we may or may not be able to generate.
Okay, Councillor, with questions? Councillor Shukin.
Thank you. Through you, Councillor. I kind of hate to ask this question, but the reference to 42,000 and the school capital repayment, I don't know the answer to this, so I would appreciate your guidance. But because that is money that is specific to an action that we took a number of years ago, and because we tax for it, it does strike me it should be accounted for. I don't want to lose track of that. So, and this is with us for the calculation I did. It's like a 35-year total payment. So again, fair enough. It's here. It's but I think that is part of the expense of the school.
Yeah,
fair
absolutely.
enough. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
Well, just respond to that. My point is it doesn't affect the school. It's nothing to do with the school budget. It's nothing to do with our costs or expenses related to the school. What the district is doing has been doing is saying every year let's put 42,500 into a reserve. I'm just saying take it off the school page because it has nothing to do with school. But of course it has to be accounted for. We have to decide, do we want to continue to put 42,500 into a reserve fund? With regards to repayment of the school, if we turn to our agenda package, pages 9 through 14, through 15 actually, you'll see that the school was valued at its purchase price of $1.5 million in 2017. It's now in 2022, I guess, it was valued at $2.79 million. So in fact, we've already made $1.29 million on the school. So the idea of having to repay, you don't have to pay the 1.29, we've already achieved that. So it's not a question of going 42,500 and multiplying for multiple years. We'll actually, I wonder if we got assessed today if it might be even with more money. It may well be already paid back.
Any, Mary Lynn?
Yeah, I'm in favor of keeping it here as the school capital repayment. I think it's important to not get lost, this figure get lost, because we have committed to that. And what it's worth now compared to what it was before, I think what it's worth now, we can actualize that if we were going to sell it, but we're not interested in selling it, so we wouldn't recoup those costs. The market could drop out tomorrow, and it might be worth less. Who knows? But I'm definitely in favor of keeping that school capital repayment in there so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. But I would yield to the recommendations of our finance chair on that.
All right, with any other comments about that Mr. Tarnowski can enlighten us with? I think other than that, that's are there any other questions or ideas to continue before we ask for more public input? Councillor Shukin?
So apologies for asking this question. I just, maybe I should be aware of this, but the leasing agent fee, we're still paying a leasing agent.
I think Mr. Tarnowski can enlighten us on that one.
And thanks for that. I know some of these questions are maybe dealt with more specifically in the budget meeting, but I just had to get clarity on this.
So this clip of the budget and actuals was taken prior to our first budget meeting on 21st. So now the amount is still in the school budget, but it has been reallocated contracted maintenance, so that could cover janitorial, additional janitorial, or whatever else that's expensive that's associated with operations of the school. So the amount is still there, but it's just not in the line item that's referred to as leasing agent's fee.
All right, Councillor Schuster.
Sorry, just for clarity though, we're not paying a leasing agent then?
No,
okay,
that's correct.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, do we have anyone out there that would like to speak?
Diana Smith. I think this was advertised as a strategic visioning workshop. It's not been a workshop. It's not been visioning at the beginning. I mean, you had an engaged full house of people who had tons of ideas, and then for the most part of this meeting, we've been sitting like bumps on a log, listening to a council meeting, right? And with all due respect to the facilitators, the first thing you almost did was come up with recommendations of what you should be doing, of management, without talking to us, which is what, to me, that's the cart before the horse. You did make several times you've asked for stakeholders to have a word. I did notice that. But we need to have management is part of a strategic plan, and if it was going to be like a council meeting, we could be excused. We came here to participate in a workshop. You had facilitators, they're not to facilitate the council discussion, in my opinion. You're to facilitate a community discussion. Here we all are. Well, half the people have left, exhausted. The rest of us, you're like me, you're exhausted. I'm just listening to, trying to come up with wording on the fly. You don't, that's not a way, I mean, I don't want to sit and, that's not an efficient way of coming up with really important wording. I understand if you have a short-term necessity to rent the gym, that's a business thing, and everybody would support that as long as it's got limitations and parameters. The long-term vision should not be done on the fly, quickly here. There should be, as you suggested, first of all, you interview everybody, stakeholders, then you gather together and have a visionary workshop, which I thought this was, and then you write a report with recommendations in that order. So that's what I was going to say.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Diana. I'm going to follow along with that theme on vision. My vision, to express our visions, is one of self-sufficiency through sponsorship, actually, and looking at the private sector for sponsorship. And also, that would be, self-sufficiency is not only financial, well, sponsorship would obviously add that financial self-sufficiency in the longer term, immediate and longer term, involving the private sector for support. My idea is actually to involve an energy solution and to incorporate solar energy. I don't know if you've seen vertical access windmills, wind generators, for example, that are on roofs in Los Angeles, and the roofs are covered with solar panels. Sponsorship for something like that would provide an energy alternative, but also it would be a model. So my vision of the center is to model something. I don't care what the past, I really don't actually, how we got here, but we're here. Yeah. And also the purpose for what people have articulated is wonderful. But having a sponsorship, having somebody come along and help us with that, I think would be hugely helpful, because it solves some of the financial targets that you would wish to meet as a municipality. It also doesn't change the operational structure of looking for a solution to manage it. It augments it, actually. It actually gives you a lot more freedom, in that the council doesn't have to keep coming up with money, because they've got an energy solution company that is taking care of some of the management of the facility in maintaining it. The other thing, and this is really out there, but this is a strata title idea. And along with the sponsorship, strata titling is that you set the parameters for the strata title, and this involves private sector again, that you in effect sell off parts of the commercial aspect of it, so that what you're left with is a public aspect. So if you sell off, strata title it, you set the terms. Strata titlers, people have to get together, and they have to meet as a group, and they have to set the terms for their ownership, and they have strict parameters for what they can do and what they can't do. So looking at the self-sufficiency as an environmental solution, and looking at a strata title model, I'm just using that as a term. There's probably others, where you've got the complete public control, but you've got your commercial interests that are engaged in other aspects of it, and that may be, more commercially supporting an art gallery or markets or whatever that happens to be in the use of the gym. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Carol Voigt. I have 3 points that I just wanted to make. In the beginning of this workshop, I noticed that we were very arts and culture facility focused, and I find that a real misnomer. When you look at the old school site, which is what I would prefer to call it, it is 4.7 acres, is that correct? Somewhere under 5 acres? MACA is arts and culture, and they have 43, 46% of the building space, but it represents 7% of the entire school property. So I am really glad to see the shift in nomenclature for us to start calling this a multi-use facility. It's not an arts and culture facility. That has been its current use, but I have a vision for much bigger use and much more broad views. So yay, congratulations for changing that nomenclature terminology. I appreciate that. The second point that I'd like to make is, in my past life, I was a visual artist. I ran art shows twice a year in Calgary, Alberta. They were big, they were well run, they were beautifully attended. I rented community halls. So I have huge experience renting community halls. I dealt with community managers that were sometimes volunteers, sometimes someone's kid, sometimes a paid member. It was a nightmare. I can promise you, you do not want a volunteer and you do not want a group of volunteers running this facility. You need a paid person, you need a district employee who is accountable and who is responsible. It will be a nightmare if you don't go that route. And my last point, I guess you all know that Metchosin Pickleball Club is anxious to get into the gym. We want to get in there, we want to use the gym. We're happy to pay your fees. We're happy to bring our own equipment. We're happy to keep it clean and tidy. We will leave it in the same condition we found it. We will unlock, we will lock up. We will do whatever you need us to do. We just want access, please, soon. But my question on that is Metchosin Pickleball Club is a real thing. We are affiliated with Pickleball BC. We are affiliated with Pickleball Canada. We are a real club for the fastest growing sport in North America. We are not yet a not-for-profit society, but we could become one, pretty much with $100 and a stroke of a pen. So my question to you is, I know that MACA is a non-for-profit society, and they have what you call a zero-budget financial position. If we become a not-for-profit society, if any other sport groups become a not-for-profit society, would you afford us that same financial benefit? So there's some food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity of coming forward again. I've shared with you a vision from myself of what I see could be a very nice and important unit for this facility. And now I want to share something that I have as a vision for the whole facility, which I think, since we have a chosen community house and the Metchosin Community Hall, this could be the Metchosin Community Hub. So I just propose that to you. But the vision that I have comes from this discussion that I was listening to about what a vision statement is and a strategic statement is. And I think that we all need to have a guiding star, something that we can measure against. And the word is community. But that community needs to be open, accessible, with equity. And this is my personal prejudice, but the more people that are open for the facility, the better it is. So I'm all for preschool, but to have 25 privileged, under-accessible families a year, is not the same as having the senior center. It's just not. And so, with respect to the first responders, which I think is really important, I'd like to think that you're not there training people from Alberta and Ontario because you're so good, but that you're training us. And we are all actually first responders. When the fires come down because of climate change and our house gets embers on the roof, we're the first responders, right? When our child gets choking, or when the senior gets a heart attack, we are the first responders. So I think that the first responder theme would resonate very well with me if it covered all of us and not people in uniforms. If you said you were only going to be training people in uniforms, I would be less happy to engage with you despite all the work that's gone on in the past, because the future should be about an open community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And hi, my name is Charlotte Huber. I rent a studio at MACA. And in a few weeks, Steve Gray is coming there for a meeting, and we're going to screen a video in my studio. So I'm very excited to show him. I raised my daughter here in Metchosin for 10 years. She went to Hans Helgeson all of her elementary school years. I volunteered with the Metchosin Emergency Program for a number of years. I've taken all the JIBC courses, so in the event of an earthquake, I'm your communications officer for that. And just through this meeting, hearing a vision statement that one might be presented, I just wanted to propose one that I've written. Create a hub of the community for the community, honoring and supporting the physical and mental well-being growth and enhancement of everyone in Metchosin that honors safety, belonging, and creativity for all.
Wow. Can we get Can we get a copy of that, please? Because it sounded wonderful. Thank you.
You can just copy it off my phone. Are you there? You're operating.
Yeah, I spoke earlier as an individual, and now I guess I better let you know that I'm actually from Maca. And I must say that I did learn something really valuable. When you define the word commission, I did not know what commission implied. I thought commission was an equal term to like a committee. And so now I'm totally backing away from the commission thing, which I thought was awesome. I think an advisory committee will be a good idea. What else? Mecca. Well, when Carol mentioned the fact that MAC is working from a zero-based budget and we're getting subsidized by the district, we've been subsidized by the district for a long time, 14 years, I suppose, basically here and there, off and on, whatever it turned out to be. And then we worked really hard. Is Art? Oh, Art's gone. We worked really hard on coming up with this zero-based budget because we had to figure out a way to let the council and the public know what was going into what we were doing at the facility. We're not just a sports team using the space. We've repaired the walls and the holes and the plumbing and the caulking and the roof, and Chris can talk about that, but you know, it's been a long time, and it's been thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars from volunteer time. So when you want to tackle our zero-based budget and try to compare that to a sports team that wants a zero-based budget, there's no comparison. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Sarah, Metchosin Road. I kind of had a couple questions, I guess. One was, sorry, now that I have forgotten it listening to Betty. One was, I guess, like, I'm just not sure how that would work, but if we have somebody from the district kind of running it, but we have maybe a council, because I was thinking about, like, because of the budget issue or the money issue, can there be fundraising done like we do for the community house, like for the next few years where it's not really making enough money to sustain itself, and like how that might work a little bit? And then so I had another question I completely forget, but then I was also just gonna comment that about businesses, and I think it should, obviously the main thing is that we have a community place, but I do think it's good when we have some local businesses that really provide benefit for the community or provide benefit to local people like Charla. I like it being a place that can bring people together. I think that, the Mile Zero has been like such actually a really cool blessing for that. Like, of course we can go in the day, we can go over to the cafe or the coffee shop there, and that's great, but it's been really, really nice in the evening to have that place. And I think just to expand about that, now I remember my other question was actually about the village square. So it's sort of been brought up in this, but not really clearly. I remember Shannon did a presentation, and it was quite a while ago, and it just sounded really cool, and I was excited to see. I think Councillor Donaldson was involved in that a little bit, and just really hoping to see that come to fruition one day, because that also, especially in the summer, creates such a good space where we can sit outside. I think after COVID, we all know we just need more and more community. We need more and more ways to hang out. And I was just gonna comment one more thing about, even the little bit that it is there, sometimes I'll tell Eric I'm walking to the store to get a loaf of bread, and it takes me 2 hours to get back because I see Betty outside, and I end up hanging out there, and I saw them all painting one day and hung out with them, and Betty fed me some macaroni, and it's just, that kind of thing is really nice, and I really appreciate that part of it. It's great. Thanks.
Thank you.
May I ask a question? And this is in terms of fundraising for local groups. Does MACA have a charitable tax status?
We don't have a charitable status.
But you're a not-for-profit.
We're a non-profit, yeah.
Thank you.
The only one in the building that does, I think, is the Seniors Association. They do have a charitable status.
Hi there. I'll introduce myself, Jane Hammond, Rocky Point Road. I'm just sitting and watching this like with great amazement of how you are managing when certainly some of the expectations were not meeting exactly what was going on, but still I think we're all on a very positive note here. I'm watching it as a jigsaw puzzle and pieces will come together. And this is a little comment that hasn't come up yet. So 30 years ago, West Shore Parks and Recreation, or Wanda Fuca as they were called at that point only, had an outreach component. It was called the Metchosin Recreation Committee, and this was in late '89, around then. It's through their community development aspects. I think that needs to be sort of into your mix as well. They decentralized a lot of programming out to Metchosin, which was very optimal for families particularly. They did run a lot of recreation programs, summertime and that kind of thing too. So I would really support seeing them as a partner in your program. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Donaldson can fill us in as the representative on West Shore Parks and Rec.
Thank you for that, Jane. I actually did, was at a meeting 2 months ago, and that came up about the West Shore Parks and Recreation is as full capacity as they possibly can be on their 100 and some odd acres, and so they are starting to go further afield within the West Shore. As an example, they put in the big lights at Royal Bay Secondary, and so there's some expectation of being able to use that for different things. So while they were flushing this out and knowing that people sort of see us as way out on this limb, almost in no man's land, I asked them to bring it forward again to please consider us, because we do have this gymnasium spot that is available. We do have the field and that sort of stuff. So they were to one of their staff members that I left my card and our interim CEO's contact to be able to sort of work on that sort of thing. So certainly they had shown an interest because they could put programs on here, whether it's yoga or whatever. There's lots of different things. And you know yourself, and I think Betty too, back in the day, we at the community house, we did something for the kids called Mask, which is sort of a spin-off of MISA. And they're still very interested in doing arts for kids too, so that would tie into MACA and the assets we have. So this is sort of full circle. So certainly they are interested in partnering in some aspect, whether it's recreation, arts and culture. So certainly an awesome idea. So thanks for bringing that forward.
There you
go. I haven't really heard too much concrete today yet. There's talk of a committee. That's a good idea. There's a volunteer committee, not a paid committee, so it would probably be good to keep their obligations to a minimum. Have a committee stand back from the day-to-day operation of the center and just make policy decisions as required, because they will need to be made by someone. But the day-to-day management of the Arts Center is well under control, and like Betty said, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in volunteer hours and material on the center since we started, and things are going along pretty smoothly there. And but I haven't heard anything concrete. Somebody said, you know, maybe the person that works at the community hall could coordinate the gym bookings, but to start off gym bookings with a remote coordinator is not going to work. There's going to be too many questions and too many little issues to take care of. So again, I say give Josh from the music studio a chance. He's had education in hospitality, He's familiar with it. He's not a greedy man. He's supplied all the sound system and those cushions that go around the walls, like at cost, I do believe. And so he's your man for the interim while you figure out what you're going to do. And we can get going on this gym. And like the facilitator said, you know, they brought up 4 municipalities. I think it was Salt Spring, Couch, and Parksville, and Port Hardy. And they're all wholly funded by their respective local governments, right? And so here we are. We want our cake and eat it too. We want an art center, but we don't want to really spend any money on it. You know, we hope to break even. So that's good. We're in a unique position where we have an income to support the onus on local governments, which is to support arts and culture. And the arts and culture can be part of the gym too, as I'm sure it will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I speak twice?
Oh, I guess so.
I forgot to mention, given that a large part of this meeting was about management, I wanted to talk about management. The 2 recommendations that you made are like, would you rather have broccoli or cabbage? They're closed. This is an expanded list of a closed list. Is would you rather have cabbage, kohlrabi, turnip, that kind of thing. There's nowhere there that has a creative or a different option. So, you know, I was thinking, as I said in my presentation earlier, it could be a district-owned facility jointly operated by the district and a steering committee representing all residents and users. So, I mean, you've heard, I mean, a lot of people have talked about a committee. You know we all like to be participatory people. Those of you on the council, when you were at this side, you were very participatory. So it could be both. This is an either or, either this list or the one you presented earlier. There can be more options that are more, I think, representative of Metchosin.
Thank you. Is there anyone else would like to speak?
Sorry, that nudge. Now I remember what I forgot. Actually, the title of this gathering is sort of a misnomer. Like, I came here to think that, yeah, we're cooperating. We want to share this facility. But the title of this gathering is Arts and Culture. We didn't ask, MACA didn't ask for that title. I don't know, that part's confusing for me, and it's probably confusing for some of the rest of you, because Carol asked that question. Arts and Culture didn't ask for this meeting, but there's some reason it's tagged that way. Maybe somebody else can explain that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Burgess Ducrot. Okay, I'm kind of a practical person. Some people who know me around the building know that I can either put up drywall and paint and do all sorts of things. Somehow we turned the principal's office into a coffee shop. My practical comment for you. Who owns the school? I think the municipality owns the school. So at the moment, we're sort of hung up on scheduling that part of the school is about to be finished, the gymnasium, right? In my opinion, the district has a beautiful website, well, a reasonable website, but it has a website. The website can be revised fairly easily, I think. I don't know if it takes professional outside help to do that, but I see no reason why the district site cannot manage the calendar in the interim for booking your gymnasium when you feel it's ready to book it. But your CAO would know if there's a large additional cost to that or whatever might be involved in it. But to me, practically, the district owns the building. I think the district should manage the calendar of the booking of the gymnasium. So that was basically one of my practical ideas. The other, I support your concept of redoing, I would say redoing this workshop with the sort of circle dialogue idea where you take a couple of people from each one of the user groups who really want to give input to what's happening at the school. And lots of us, I think, have pretty good input and lots of ideas, and we've got to pull them together because we're known to be a municipality with quite a lot of gossip. And let's get a handle on gossip. Let's get a handle on how this school is going to be run. And I think I come from a pretty good position to demand that, because I'd have to confess I was part of the group that got the first council, the last council, to purchase the school. And we know what kind of facility it should be, and we knew it had to be owned by the district. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, unless there's anyone else would like to speak, I think, I'm sorry that some of you are disappointed in the way this was set up today. However, we just really wanted to get started. I think we've heard a lot of input, despite not having, the kind of open workshop idea. We've definitely heard from a lot of you about your ideas and thoughts on the school, and that's all been really valuable, and gives us a good place to start. It's unfortunate we're starting, kind of years late, but this is at least is a start now. So I'm hoping that we can continue and work with the community on really making this a great space around the school. So council facilitators, are there? So what's next as far as your role?
I'll let Carmen talk about that, because she is the expert at facilitating those kinds of meetings with different groups. I would like to say that that this circle would not just be about hearing your voice, which of course is essential, but I know that a lot of really great creative solutions can come out when you get a bunch of creative people sitting around talking and figuring out new approaches and new methods. So to this lovely lady here, who I think that this can be a very creative part. I think that we can help facilitate that kind of creativity, looking at the problems that may present themselves, getting a group of people who are very creative to come up with some of the solutions that perhaps we're not envisioning now.
Did you want to say something? So I have two almost opposing sides to me. One is very detail oriented and one is very circle process organic. So I just wanted to recap. A couple of motions were passed today that I think everybody was comfortable with. You do have kind of a short-term solution to at least get some bookings for the gym started. That's good. We can help you in the next few weeks or so come up with perhaps a tentative vision statement, although perhaps a permanent one should wait until there's been more community consultation. So we have made a little bit of headway, I think, hopefully, in terms of at least how you can move forward into January and early next year. As far as next steps, if more community consultation is something that you would like us to do, we're certainly open to that, and perhaps we could do that by liaising with staff via email in the next little bit to see logistically what that would look like, and what format and what an agenda would encompass and so on, if that makes sense to council.
All right. Thank you. Council, do you wish to weigh in on the next steps, which is on the agenda here? Or do you feel we've kind of done that? We're going to be discussing, going to add a special council meeting to go further with that. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll just have receipt of the pinks for tonight from letters from Morgan Yates, Carol Voigt, and Deborah Pyle. Councillor Gray.
Yeah, maybe I just want to mention that I'm not overly pleased with the meeting that we've had today. I share the concerns that we heard from some of the people in the public participation, kind of lack of focus, recommendations tabled before not even in the agenda package. And I felt sort of off guard for the whole meeting, trying to figure out where are we going. And that's not a reference at all of your position in chair, but just rather, I think we need to be clear in future about what we're gathering for. And certainly got a lot of good ideas here, but I don't see sort of a level of conflict requiring something like a circle. I see that we're here, we're talking, we're getting things done, we've got some meetings coming up. The idea of an advisory committee, if that's the direction, then a circle wouldn't be needed if we're going to do something else. So I'm happy leaving it as we are today and picking the threads up in our next meetings. Thank you.
All right, anyone else have any comments before we close? All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Thanks everybody for coming and sitting through this. We really appreciate your attendance.